Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of What's Going Down right here on YouTube. I am, of course, your host, Big Time Jimmy Larson, and of course, our co-host, CT Bishop.
What's up? What's up? What's up? How's it going, everybody? What's going down?
It's going to be another fun week here on the podcast, and as always, we want to remind you that if you have any questions during the show, you can submit them to us. Bishop, go ahead and tell them how they can submit their questions.
You can submit it right on the live chat, or you can send us an email. All of the email information, all of the channel information will be in the description box, so you can send us an email, or like I said, do it in the chat. I'm paying attention to the chat. Also, if you have Discord, you can join our Discord server. So, you can write to us either way, however you want to get to us. Write to us, give us topic ideas, things you want to hear us talk about. Or, if you have questions, anything, just, feel free to contact us in whatever way. So, just check it out in the description box below. Also, check out the channels. Check out Tuesday Night Tussle at the movies with Big Time Jimmy Larson and, my Comedy Skits channel as well. It's all in the description
Well, we're
box.
going to get to those a little later on. Just getting the questions in there now so people can send those in so we can maybe answer a few before we go off the air.
Yeah.
But we want to also give out our sincerest apologies about all the issues we've been having with technical issues last week. We had some audio issues. We had some video issues. We had all kinds of issues last week. We did get them worked out, and we want to thank everybody who stayed tuned and tuned into that. We did have some good discussion. Unfortunately, some of it did not air, but we are hoping to get all these bugs worked out. Remember, this is only our third week. So we have two knowledgeable people here, but obviously we're having some technical issues getting everything going, but we are working on that.
Yeah.
And speaking of, what was that?
No, I was just saying, I had to do a whole systems check. I had to rewire things. I had to freaking do a lot of crazy stuff just to make sure that we're streaming. And I even have it playing on my phone, and so far everything is streaming on my phone, so we're good to go.
Yeah, I've been having some issues on my show too, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But I just need time with everything going on with all the issues and all. I need some time to clear my head, and so I will be taking a trip this week.
I want to say hi to Melissa Matos, who just wrote on the chat.
Okay, and there she is.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But I will be going to visit a friend this week, and I'm looking forward to that. The last time I did go to visit this friend, I actually saw a wrestler from the past who I will not be mentioning.
Yeah.
For certain reasons, I will not mention who that person was, but
that's a good idea.
Interesting to say the least to see that person in public when I did not expect it.
No, I agree. It is a good idea that you're not mentioning that person.
We talked about that before we went on the air.
Yeah. No, I know. I guess it was pretty interesting then, huh?
Definitely interesting, especially during this pandemic. I wasn't sure when I saw him coming. Let's just say, and this is a little hint for anybody who can get it. It's fine, but I'm not going to confirm nor deny. But it definitely felt like maybe the purge was upon us when I seen him. But anyway, this week we just posted the new episode yesterday of At the Movies with Big Time Jimmy Larson. Thank you for that, CT Bishop, stealing my segue.
Well, I'm sorry, but we got to. I had to promote and plug it. Is that presumptuous? Ooh, I got to do it now. But I apologize.
Well, we haven't gotten there yet, still. But yeah, we did have a new episode come up, which in my opinion was the best episode we've put up so far, where I reviewed Taking Care of Business, which I did plug last week on the show that I would be reviewing this week. And next week, even though I will be away, we will have an episode posted as planned. Glitches and all. Again, going back to those technical issues but it is a great episode as I review my favorite movie of all time. So that will be a good one as well. And
I had fun.
everything like it's
I had fun.
what?
I was saying I had fun editing that one.
Yeah, I can imagine. But yeah, the episode will go on as planned next Friday. And speaking of plans, we have some upcoming plans scheduled for podcasts,
Yes,
upcoming podcasts, including next week. We just discussed this right before we went on the air. We had some questions come in about it in the emails, and we are going to have an entire discussion next week about the lineage of the pro wrestling championships, and we will discuss especially the WWE championship. We're going to talk about Hulk Hogan's run as champion and some other stuff. You want to tell them about that, Bishop?
uh let's just say that compared to other champions runs, I just find it funny how especially now thinking about it, really thinking about it, as an adult, how he has this cockiness. He has this cockiness, and don't get me wrong, I give him a lot of credit for what he's done for the business, but he had a cockiness, and he barely ever defended that damn thing. It's compared to the likes of Bret Hart, and but that's just for me. As I saw a video earlier this week. About it, and I was just like, yeah. Come to think of it, yeah, he didn't do jack. He didn't do jack. He didn't. It was really interesting. It was really interesting, and hopefully next week when we talk about it, I can bring with some statistics as I'm working on the statistics to really give more details on it.
Yeah, and that will be discussed, as I said, next week. And I don't see the chat as I look on here, so I don't know what's writing on here.
Are you using the app?
No, I don't have the app. Actually, I use the website, and I just see how many people are watching.
That's why you need the app. You need the app so that way you can see the chat.
So what was written in the chat anyway?
It was just hi. That's it. Hi.
Oh, okay.
That's how she said. That's why I wanted to address that right away. Just to let her know that, hey, we got the chat.
Okay. And again, you can send our questions in the chat, because even though I cannot see them, my co-host here, CT Bishop, can, and will let us know when we get to that point.
Yes.
But another topic we discussed this week that cannot go unmentioned. We had some fun discussing this amongst ourselves. I said, hey, this right here, this is a segment that we need to talk about on the show.
Please.
And I also plugged this on the Facebook that we would be talking about this today, and that is the Rocky franchise.
Yep.
The Rocky franchise went up for some discussion as I got into a few arguments this week over not only my choices for best to worst of the Rocky movies, but my reasons behind them. And I'm not going to call people names,
well, compared
to
that
people, some people can definitely learn a thing or two about what makes a cinematic movie a good movie.
Thank you.
I'll get into that in a minute, but first let me give you my list in case you are wondering, and I'd love to get your list. I don't know if you made your list.
I did not make a list because for the most part, as you know, I tend to agree with you, man. I tend to agree with you. You have a good eye, and you have a good thought process on it all, and so I'm just gonna go and say with what you say, man. I agree with you wholeheartedly on the list, man.
Well, there you go, coming right from somebody else. You should listen to me if you want the true facts on things.
There you go.
Because I have all the true facts that everybody should agree on. No, I'm not going there. You're entitled to your opinions, no matter how wrong they may be. Anyway.
Well, while you are revealing the list and having your discussions, I will be listening in, but I need to go for a second. I got to take care of something. Again, I'm sorry. It's a technical thing, but it's not going to affect the stream.
Okay.
So,
well,
I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
Anyway, this list, I want to remind you, is not necessarily my favorites list of the favorites, because I do have a favorite that is not at the top of this list. This list is also not based on the success of each movie, as success does not make a movie great, because a movie can be getting 5 stars, or it could get 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. That doesn't mean anything. Just as people pay to go to see a movie does not mean they enjoyed it either. So that's why I do not go by statistics. I go by what I think was best for the franchise itself. Which movies made the franchise stand out? Which one helped the movies go forward? Which ones developed the stories or the characters better? That is the criteria I'm using with this list. And right at the top of the list, the best Rocky movie of all time for that criteria is Rocky 2. And again, not my favorite in the series. It was my brother's favorite in the series, but Rocky 2 definitely helps elevate the story from the first movie. The first movie, as we know, and it's not spoilers at this point if you haven't seen the Rocky movies, and you should go see them, but we're going to do our best here not to spoil it if you haven't seen it. But at the end of Rocky, of course, he does not beat Apollo Creed, and it basically is not a good payoff to the audience. That movie was the most successful of the series, and Sylvester Stallone was actually up for an Oscar for Rocky 1, but again, he doesn't even win the big one, which is kind of like setting the whole audience up for this to happen, and then it doesn't happen, and it's kind of messed up for the audience members to watch that and not get the big payoff. And Rocky 2 definitely fixes that. And it doesn't just rehash the first movie. We get the rematch between Apollo and Rocky. And, of course, Rocky does win the big fight at the end. And the whole, yo, Adrian, I did it. It's great. Mm-hmm. And they throw in all these extra stories about Rocky not being able to see after the first fight in the first movie. And just all the different things, Rocky trying to retire and do stuff. It really shows you a great element of a story of a guy who is an athlete, because let's face it, if you're an athlete in any sport, you should always have an educational background to fall back on, because it is very important in case you can't keep doing your sport for the rest of your life. And that's what happens to Rocky in Rocky 2. He finds out he has to retire.
No, go ahead.
Bishop's back.
I know. I'm reading the comments. I'm sorry. Alfonso Delgado Matos. I hear kids are birds. Yeah. I apologize that those are my birds, and I'm trying to. I covered their cages so that way they can go to sleep.
It's good here. I don't even hear no birds.
But go ahead. You're saying.
So anyway, yes, in Rocky 2, we get the great story element of Rocky. He can no longer box, and so he tries another job, and he can't do anything. He tries to do some television commercials off his fame that he now has, but he can't read, so he can't do the cue cards, so he loses that job. Then he tries to get some hard labor jobs, and he can't handle those either, and they cut him off due to cutbacks, and he just has nothing to fall back on, and he looks at getting back in the boxing, and he's told by Mickey, you can't do it because you can't see. But then, of course, as we know, Apollo does go on to this whole rant of setting him up to look like the bad guy, and eventually he does it just to get his honor back, and he becomes the champion. So yeah, all of these different stories, and on top of that, his wife he gets married and becomes a husband, and now his wife gets pregnant, so she ends up giving birth, but she's scared for him going back into the ring, causes her to almost miscarriage. Just so many elements in Rocky 2 that it's just a brilliant movie on every level. There's drama, there's comedy. And let's, now that you're back, we can discuss this. There's another famous thing that a lot of people don't realize about Rocky 2, and that's the famous line that Scott Hall gave for years and years that everybody loved and waited for, the "Hey yo."
Yeah.
And "Hey yo" came from this movie.
Yeah.
There's a scene where Stallone says to this guy, "Hey, I'll give you a call." And he goes, "Oh, you got a phone call?" He goes, "No, I'll just call you." I'll go, "Hey, yo." And Scott has admitted that is where he got it.
No, and it's crazy. And it's crazy because, unless unless you've seen the Rocky movies, or unless you really seen the Rocky movies and paid attention to the interviews that Scott Hall has done. It's like, they're thinking, oh, it's just he just created his own thing. And unfortunately, not a lot of people, they will pay attention to what to any interviews, because and I would admit this to myself. There's been times where I have not heard podcasts or an interview or something just because I wasn't able to. But when I hear it like years later, and I'm like, wow, holy crap, that's cool. But it is it's become a famous line. And it's not because of Scott Hall. It's because of Sylvester Stallone. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that the movie itself, I mean, is just like one of the best, if not the best, out of the series, out of the franchise, man.
Well, as I said, it is the best in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But and like I said, it's not my favorite, but it's just the best. It just has everything the first one had and more. And it gives you the payoff that you were expecting at the end of the first one.
And if you remember in the movie where there comes that point in time when Adrian, when she's against Rocky fighting again, and then
I just talked about that right before you came back. But okay.
No. But I'm saying, but I didn't hear the Paulie. Did you mention Paulie?
No, I did not mention Paulie.
That's
in
where
this
I was.
one. Yeah,
Yeah,
Paulie is just so good.
yeah. That's where I was getting to. Is that Paulie, and that in his character, he's a wisecracking, he can be selfish at times, and he can. But I think in his methods on how he does things, we may not agree with, but when you really kind of get to know that character somehow, it's like you understand why he did it. He confronted his sister. Adrian, on the issue, and he was like, what are you doing? And Adrian's fighting back, and then it's like. That's when all of a sudden, she has, she has that
the emotional breakdown.
Yeah, and the medical issue where
and it's just so good.
Oh,
People
yeah.
talk about the acting in Rocky 1, but they forget really every one of them. I'm going to go over them as we go through this. But
yeah.
But there's so much good acting throughout each of these movies. But that scene, especially with him and Talia, with Adrian, when they're going over that, and just the whole, if he gets hurt, it's going to be your fault. And she goes, if something happens to him, you don't love him, I do. And it's just so emotional. You feel it.
Yeah,
you can feel the raw emotion. And then she starts to fall because she's having the miscarriage. And he then shows his side that he actually does care. But at the same time, he's the only person I think that could pull off caring and not caring at the same time.
Well,
because he doesn't just come over like, hey, what's wrong with you? He goes, why are you doing this?
Yeah. Well, I'm and the way that I kind of see it is that when he confronts Adrian about what is she doing, and messing him up and messing Rocky up and whatever, it's like, you in a way, you see it normally. You would see it as him being selfish because of the money and all of that. And in my opinion, just kind of really thinking back on people that I've known that were like Paulie, and and just the character alone, that he really does care. It was more of from my point of view, it was more of, what are you doing to his manhood? What are you doing to his manhood?
Yeah, exactly.
And
honestly, it kind of like wrapped up easily, because as soon as Adrian comes out of her coma, even she's changed her mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes you wonder, well, was she thinking about this over, like, during the time that she was in coma? We never do find that out.
Yeah.
That's my brother's favorite part of the whole movie, too, when she wakes up out of the coma,
like,
and she goes, come here, there's one thing I want you to do. What's that? Win. And Mickey's screaming out,
what are you waiting for?
The training montage. My brother loved that.
It's so
good.
Yeah, I love that part. Because it's like, it's like, you know, everybody's all somber, they're like kind of down, and then when she says that, and you see the look on Mickey's face, like all excitement, and he's like, "Yeah, what are you waiting for?" Like, you know, like hurry up. Loved it. I loved it.
And I apologize for all of our listeners for him screaming if you're wearing your headphones.
No, but it's just
So,
but you know, you can't help but get excited. You can't help but
oh,
get
I know they're
excited. So
exciting movies, absolutely. And moving right along into the second best, I didn't expect to talk about Rocky 2 as long as we did, but hey, it's the best, so it's gonna be talked about a lot.
yeah, go ahead.
Uh, but the second movie that is the best in the franchise is the first Creed movie. And a lot of people, when I wrote this online, I got hated on this, but at the same time, and I mentioned that Rotten Tomatoes doesn't really make a whole lot of difference, like, I don't know, a movie being good, but this movie did just as well feedback wise as the first Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
And it deserved all of that. Because this movie found, when they did Rocky 5, everybody was losing, like, I don't care anymore. And Rocky 6 had been rumored for so long and never happened. And then finally we got Rocky Balboa, which was great. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But then everybody thought, that's it. There's nowhere else you can go with this franchise. It's done. Put a fork in it. It's gone. Mm-hmm. And then came Creed. And everybody was kind of like, at the same time, and I was one of these people, I don't know if you were as well, but when they announced Creed, I thought, my God, that'll never work. That's such a dumb concept. Just let it die, you know? It ran a good run. Rocky Balboa is the perfect ending. We don't need another movie.
I know. I was optimistic. To be honest, I was optimistic. I thought because you know when you get the kind of the premise through the trailers and then you get into it and you're finding out that it's about Apollo's son, and then you know there's that moment of Apollo had kids because
Well, we knew Apollo had kids going back to Rocky 2.
No, but
he says they're making fun of my kids at school over this fight.
no, I'm not even talking about that. I'm saying it was more of I doubt that any of Apollo's kids would have gone into boxing. It's like Apollo wanted better for his kids, and so it wasn't like a reaction of like Apollo had kids. It's like it was like Apollo had kids that are boxing, or it's like you kind of think okay, what's going on, and why are they getting? And then when you hear the story about Adonis, right? Shoot, like. And
it kind of heel turns Apollo, though. It makes you kind of realize that he's not that great guy because he cheated on his wife, and he had this kid Adonis right around the time frame of where Rocky 4 was is when that happened, and he cheats on his wife. And now this is this illegitimate son.
Yeah, but in a way, I mean, yeah, it gives him that heel turn, that he's not whatever, but at the same time, in a way, it's with if you think about it, with celebrities and all the stories, the scandals that go on, it's sort of it's not really a surprise. It's not really a shocker. It's not a surprise. It's kind of like, oh, okay, so he was like one of the other ones. He did cheat on his wife and whatever. But it does give, like you said, it does give him that heel turn. But at the same time, when they introduce the character of Adonis, it's like you start to forget all of that because of the fact that it was Apollo's wife who was basically.
I was just about to get into that.
Go ahead, yeah, but it was Apollo's wife who was raising him, and
Apollo's wife. She finds out that this kid exists. He's now like 12 or 13 years old by the time she figures this out, and she finds out that his mother had actually passed away. The one that Apollo slept with, she's gone as well. So he doesn't have either one of his parents. He's been in and out of juvenile detention homes because he's fighting with everybody because he has this fighting in his blood. Wonder where that came from. But he's just.
And by the way,
feels bad about this.
And by the way, Felicia Rashad, she did an excellent job.
Oh, absolutely. And she
I,
was great in all of them.
you
She
know,
was really
no,
the. She really
yeah,
did start to show her true colors until Rocky 2.
and it was
Going
funny.
back to
No,
Rocky 2 is the best because they all stream back to Rocky
yeah,
2.
and it was funny, and it was funny because a lot of people they know Felicia Rashad from the Cosbys, and
Yep.
for me, it was Rocky.
Yep.
It was the
Yeah, I watched
Rockies.
the Cosby Show, but I never even made the connection until I grew up that, oh my God, that's the same girl.
Yeah, no, but for me, the first time I fell in love with Felicia Rashad, and a lot of guys they had crushes, and I still kind of have a crush on her, but it was with the Rock, the Rocky movies, and to see her come back and to see her continue on with that excellent acting,
But
and
yeah, she was so good in Rocky 2. Even again, I hate to keep bringing Rocky 2 back up, but
it's
like
true
the scene
though.
where Apollo is reading the hate mail,
Yep.
and she's like, "Why wouldn't you rather spend time with your kids than read hate mail?" And he goes, "You think I lost that fight and all, don't you?" And her whole line, the way she delivers it, of "Why can't you ignore it?"
Yeah.
That line is just so good. Which, by the way, that right there kind of takes uh it doesn't forgive him, but
No.
it kind of takes a little bit of the reasoning why he would cheat on his wife. It's not that he cheated on his wife because he wanted to cheat on his wife. It's because he's feeling like less of a man after losing that fight. So it's kind of like he needed that to prove himself as a man
it,
again.
it was it was like a
To,
midlife crisis situation.
right,
It doesn't
basically.
it
And I
doesn't
mean, we've seen a lot of that in 4, which I'm going to get to when we
yeah,
get there.
and it doesn't
Um,
excuse it, like you said. It doesn't excuse it or anything, but it's can
no, it
you
does not.
you
It
you
does not
give
excuse him, does not forgive him.
yeah,
But
but it's like at least you have a
it
reason.
explains
Yeah,
the reasons behind it. And then, like I said,
exactly.
we'll get more into that on 4. But anyway, or I'm never going to get through
Go ahead,
because we're
keep
still on
going.
the second one. Creed, yeah, we see Adonis. He's growing up with this life, and then Apollo's wife, she takes him in and she raises him as her own
Hmm.
and tries to get him to get an education because, as I was talking about, I don't know if that was before or after you came back, but Rocky 2 really showed us what happens to an athlete if they don't have an education to fall back on.
Hmm.
Rocky couldn't keep a job or anything. And
Exactly.
she doesn't want that to happen to Adonis. So
Exactly.
she doesn't want him getting into sports. She wants him to have a good education. But he keeps linking back of wanting to get into the sports world.
Hmm.
And we don't really see why throughout the movie. He just keeps getting back into it though. And then he goes to the gym and he puts his car on the line just so somebody will fight him and knock him right out and he loses his car.
Hmm.
And it doesn't even really phase him. He's just wanting to fight.
Yeah,
And he has this.
no, no, and here's the
Go on.
crazy thing is that on a personal level I can relate to it because again from going into Rocky 2 and 4 and all that, right? Just everything you can everybody can relate to the Rocky series, with in one way or the other. But in this case, with what we're talking about, I can relate to it. Again, going back to what was it, our first podcast when we talked about Bob Backlund. Um, get an education because wrestling, just in case wrestling doesn't work out or whatever, and it's the same thing. With anything, get an
Yeah, that was 2 weeks
education.
ago. We talked about that,
Yeah. So it's with anything. It's like,
which you can listen to in the archives on
y-
our channel, by the way.
yeah, and so when I was watching Creed, and it was just like, holy crap, like I kind of went through this. It's like getting it. Because like even in my own life, right? My parents they wanted me to get an education, go to college, do all and even if I was gonna wrestle or even if anything, but they wanted to make sure that I had an education. To fall back on. So it's like I personally can relate to it. I can personally relate to it, and it was just awesome. Uh, Everything. If you notice, everything seems to come full circle one way or the other. And in the Rocky franchise, and it's I don't know, it's just interesting. It's just interesting. To just look back on it, as we go along, and it's like, and I'm sure a lot of people have the same reaction, like, holy crap, I can relate to this, like, you know what I mean? But anyway, go ahead.
Absolutely, and yeah, so Creed continues right where Rocky Balboa left off, and I'll get more into Rocky Balboa when I get there in the list.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just continues that, so it shows us that side of Rocky. So there's all the Rocky that, again, like I said, this was a movie that Rocky fans were like, we don't need this movie. We've had our perfect ending, and we basically see more of the same with Rocky, and it's nice because it shows us what Rocky's up to, and
Mm-hmm.
like in Rocky Balboa, again, I'll get into that more later, but he does go and visit Adrian's grave in that a lot. And now in this one, he's going back to the cemetery, but he's not just visiting Adrian, he has Paulie right next to her.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows you that new element of, oh my God, now he's not only lost Adrian, he's also lost Paulie. And we learned that his son, who he had just gotten back in touch with at the end of Balboa, now he's lost him again, which
Mm-hmm.
there's more on that later when I get to the bottom of the list
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
with another movie, but we'll get to that later. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we just see that he's got more and more issues going on in his life that, and he's just going about his everyday life, running this restaurant and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes this kid out of nowhere who knows about this secret fight that took place at the end of Rocky 3 and the beginning of Rocky 4.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows all about it. And Rocky's like, how do you know about this? And he goes, because I'm his son.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like a huge reveal to Rocky that Apollo as a child he didn't know about, and he doesn't even believe it at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then he decides to take this kid under his wing and help train him
Mm-hmm.
and get him ready and all. But he does, and he respects the fact this kid doesn't want to be known as Adonis Creed. He wants to be called Adonis Johnson after his mom's name.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want his father's legacy. He just wants to do his own.
Mm-hmm.
And I was gonna wait for later on that, but I'll give that now. Even is again because I'm not giving a full review of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just giving thoughts, but we find out that the reason he's been fighting and all this, why he wants to get in the first place, during that final fight, when Rocky said, "You got nothing more to prove," he goes, "I gotta prove I'm not a mistake."
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm not in his shoes, obviously. I was not a abandoned child from an illegitimate relationship, but
Neither
I
was
can feel for him
Yes.
with the raw emotion. And Michael B. Jordan is so good
Oh yeah.
at portraying this character, and
I agree.
you just feel for him as a person that this is a child who grew up with not his mom because his mom died. His dad, he never met his dad. His dad's dead, and for the longest time, he didn't even know who his dad was.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got into fights all the time. And then he starts seeing fights that his father had with this guy Rocky Balboa on YouTube, and he's watching these fights, and he's like, "This is my dad. Where do I belong?" And it's just so emotional. Again, going back to the emotion of these movies, that you feel sorry for him, like he doesn't have a place in this world. And then Rocky realizes that too in that last minute when he says, like I said, the line they give him of, "I just gotta prove I'm not a mistake," because he feels like he was never meant to even be in this world, and he just wants to find his own.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, he doesn't even have to win, which he does. He didn't have, because again, they didn't do the mistake that Rocky 1 made. They actually let him win. But it's just such a big moment for the whole series, really. And then taking the new elements of him meeting his girlfriend and all those things, it's just filler for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so good at bringing all the elements that made the first few movies of the Rocky series so good. And now we're distilling it upon a new generation with this young kid who's taking advice from Rocky. He's taking advice from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perfect. And the boxing scenes are just amazing. They've evolved so well over the years.
Oh,
and
definitely.
Shortly before this movie came out, there was a movie called Southpaw that came out. Or maybe that was after. I can't remember which one came which. But Southpaw had these amazing shots with the boxing, and then I felt like it was just taken to another level with Creed. Like wow, this is how it's supposed to be. This is the right. Bringing the camera right into the ring is definitely a big deal. Yeah, they did that with Southpaw too. But
Yeah. Well, you gotta remember though that like you said, just like it's like the evolution of it all. It's definitely gotten better, but it's like you have to remember that in the time when the first Rocky came out, the technology, the type of cameras and everything, and then as the years progress, right? As the years progress, and now you got boom cameras, With McMahon with the XFL, how he brought the camera right on the field, right, under the sky camera, whatever that's called. It's like you can do that now. You can do that now.
And the cameras on the wires as well with the XFL. But
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
yeah, in Southpaw they actually had they put a dummy in the ring with a camera attached to the head, and they let the boxers just punch the head, punch the camera.
yeah,
So
no,
that the viewer is right there. We're feeling those shots.
oh yeah, it's like what was that? You remember that game, Nintendo game, Mike Tyson's Knockout?
Yes, Mike Tyson's Punch Out, my
Yeah,
favorite game
yeah,
of
well,
all
yeah,
time.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that game. I love that
That could be
game.
a whole nother show.
Yeah, but it's kind of like it kind of gives it that feeling, right? It kind of gives it that feeling, right? It's like the your character in the game is like that. It's almost like transparent, and you can see the blows coming in from your opponent. So it gives it that feeling of like that game, and like and then when coming back to Creed, when they're just, oh my gosh, it's really cool. It's really cool. You just can't help but like be excited about that.
I'm saying this right now off topic, but for a future episode, maybe closer to the Mike Tyson Roy Jones Jr. fight, we will do a Mike Tyson show, and we will definitely discuss a lot of Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Sounds good, brother.
That will be a fun show to discuss.
Definitely.
But yeah, so that's Creed, and that, like I said, for all those reasons, that's why I feel that's the second best one, right behind Rocky 2. Third on the list as far as the best ones. Again, these are best for the series. Like I said, that's the criteria that they are. And the third one is actually my favorite one of the series. Like I said, it's not my favorites list. It's the best list, and that's why this is number 3 and not number 1. But Rocky 3. And a lot of people right now are probably going, okay, his list is garbage, because that's what they did online. They were not happy to see Rocky 3 so high up there. And I get the reasons. Rocky 3 is one of the shortest, if not the short. I think it's the second shortest in the series. I think 4 is actually a little bit shorter. But and it's definitely shorter, which I'll get to in a minute if you cut out the montages. But yeah, Rocky 3 just had so many elements pushed into it that it feels like a longer movie anyway. Everything just flows so nicely. I think that's why it feels so short to everybody too, is because it's so good. It doesn't drag whatsoever. I mean, the unveiling of the famous Rocky statue happens in Rocky 3. We see Rocky defending the title that he just won at the end of Rocky 2. He's defending it throughout the beginning. That whole opening montage in Rocky 3 shows so many things happening. Shows all his merchandise coming out. Shows his appearance with the Muppets and everything, which is funny because he actually mentioned in Rocky 2, when they asked him what he was going to do with the money, he mentioned, oh, I'm going to buy some Muppet toys for my kid. And then, and here we go.
Yeah, he mentions what he's going to buy Kermit for Mickey.
He goes, what's that other kid's name? Kermit and Big Bird. And now in the third one, we see him with the Muppets on the Muppet Show, sitting with Kermit the Frog. So it's just such a cool opening montage to the movie. And then Paulie goes to the arcade, and they showed a real live Rocky pinball machine that was out for a short while. And Paulie destroys one of them, goes to jail, and then tells him, oh, I just wanted a job, and you didn't give me a job. He's like yelling at about moving Mickey into the big house. It's just so good. Again, Paulie's so good all the time.
He's always in that part of the movie. He was like, you're supposed to take care of me. You owe me. And Rocky's like, nobody owe you nothing.
And in the second movie, Rocky bought watches for everybody, and they went back to that. Here he goes with the watch. He's just like, I got a watch. You gave me a watch. And I don't want the thing. It never worked right anyway. It's just so funny. And then actually, I'm mixing up audio. I'm sorry. No, he throws down the watch. The line is actually in Rocky Balboa, where he tells him, how come you didn't get a watch? And he goes, I got a watch. You gave me a watch. Yep. So I'm mixing up the audio with Rocky Balboa.
No, but
Rocky 3.
You remember when Paulie started swinging on Rocky, it's like, you want to fight out, and he starts swinging. And then, just all Rocky's doing is blocking. Rocky's in a 3-piece with Armani suit or something, and he's just blocking. All of a sudden, Paulie gets tired, and it was kind of like that. Are you done? And then they're
Exactly.
yeah, and then they're laughing about it, and Rocky's like, "Hey, you punch pretty good."
And he's just like, "Can I have a job?" Because all you had to do was ask.
Exactly.
Um, I know every week we seem to get into Cobra Kai, and we're not going to do that for too long. But I have to make mention when these come up. And yeah, in Rocky 3, there's another famous thing that happened because basically, Karate Kid was created by this guy who wanted to remake Rocky, but for kids. So that's what Karate Kid was. And for the Karate Kid song, they used the song "You're the Best Around." But what a lot of people don't realize is that song was not made for Karate Kid.
No, it was
that
not.
song was actually made for Rocky 3.
Yes, it was.
And Sylvester Stallone decided instead to go with the famous "Eye of the Tiger" song and then even wrote the script all around the "Eye of the Tiger" and everything. So he didn't use the "You're the Best Around." But it's just funny to look at how "You're the Best Around" was supposed to be Rocky, and now it's synonymous instead with Karate Kid. And then the other funny one, and again, I'll talk about that movie later, but in Rocky 4, everybody knows the song "There's No Easy Way Out," but that was not supposed to be the song for Rocky 4. The song for Rocky 4 was actually supposed to be a song that was written by Peter Cetera, called "The Glory of Love," which really, if you think about it, would not have worked for Rocky 4. Because simply, it's based around death and all the structure. It just wouldn't have worked. And Stallone felt the same way. That's why he went with "No Easy Way Out." So it became, okay, well, what do we do with this song from Peter Cetera? Oh, well, let's give it to Karate Kid Part 2. So Karate Kid Part 1 stole a song from Rocky 3, and Karate Kid Part 2 stole a song that was meant for Rocky 4. So there's more connections there than people even realize. But anyway, back to Rocky 3. It also introduced two people into the acting world. One of them being definitely famous for being an actor is Mr. T, who, this is before the A-Team, people. This was the debut of Mr. T, which is why at the start of the credits even it says introducing Mr. T. Stallone, I don't know the whole story on it. I guess he saw Mr. T at some kind of event or something and just thought, this guy is perfect. He's my villain. And that's how Mr. T came in to be the villain. And Mr. T actually was against being the villain at first when they first did this. And like you said, we should do a trivia thing. You were telling me that the other day. We should just do our podcast as a trivia thing. But Stallone had to kind of encourage Mr. T to do this and all. And then I don't know if you ever heard Mr. T's interviews that he did, I think it was like 10 years ago, where he talked about the movie. Did you see those?
Yeah. I've seen
when he mentioned that, it kind of got me like, are you freaking kidding me? This is what he really had to tell himself. In order for Mr. T to play a villain, he had to tell himself that he was the good guy in this movie. Stallone was a rich snob who was hogging the ring, and Mr. T is this up-and-coming kid whose mother is very sick. I'm sorry, not Mr. T, Clubber Lang. Mr. T had to tell himself this, but he said Clubber Lang is this kid who's coming up that's very sick and is taking care of his sick mother, and that he's got to get in the ring with Rocky so he can raise the money to help save his mother's life. This is what Mr. T had to tell himself in order to play Clubber Lang. Clubber Lang, one of the most evil characters in the Rocky series. I mean, Mr. T believes he's a good guy.
He makes the funny thing is like he has to tell himself that, but in the movie he makes a pass at Adrian. He's like, "Hey woman, hey woman," you know.
Which, by the way, I was at an independent wrestling show in Queens, New York, at the Elks Lodge, USA Pro Wrestling, where the tag team of Boogie Nights came out with Matt Stryker and all these different people involved in this. I believe it was Becky Bayless involved as well, who would later go to TNA as Cookie. I think that was her name there. She was a parody of Snooki. But anyway, they did this whole segment that was that entire encounter with the, hey woman, why don't you come back to my house and be with a real man? And I'm just sitting there in the audience. I'm like, they are completely ripping off Rocky III's script for this segment. it was just really funny though. But yeah, Mr. T, yeah,
Yeah,
like you said, he
and
gets to
yes,
pass his wife, and
and yes, you were right. She went under the ring name Cookie in TNA.
okay, so you just looked that up.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
I
trying to
like her
confirm it.
better as Becky Bayless. I wonder what happened to her.
I can look, man. I can look and tell you.
Yeah, but that's another segment. So,
Go ahead.
but it is a curiosity. I'll have to check on that too because I used to know her. But yeah, that was fun. But yeah, so Mr. T, he comes along and he is just this great character that you really want to hate. And he wants the title. He's hungry for that title and he's the number one contender and they're ducking him. And then finally Stallone now gets wind of him, like you said, at the unveiling of the statue when he comes up and he makes a pass at Adrian. And then Stallone standing up for Adrian is like, you want the shot? You got the shot. And then Mickey even was like, I don't want any part of this. So you're on your own. And Rocky has gotten to the point now where he's confident, but he's become arrogantly confident and way too cocky. And he does this really weak training this giant like facility with fans coming in buying merchandise. He's totally sold out.
Yeah, no, I mean, what he literally did is like he rented out like an auditorium, usually fighters, and I speak from a somewhat experience with the background in a slight background in boxing, is that fighters, when you're training, you train in the gym, you train and you have to focus and whatever. It has to be just you, your trainers, everybody around you, just to focus on the fight. And the fact that he has that cockiness where he's allowing fans, and then he's taking photo ops with the fans too. It's like,
and he's stopping to give kisses too.
Yeah,
which Adrian gets
yeah, and then and Mickey's, Mickey's like,
and Mickey
yeah.
Clubber isn't gonna kiss you.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one of those things where you'll see. Again, it brings that realism. It brings that realism. If you're not focused on that fight, you're gonna lose.
Yeah, fame can get to you, and you're not thinking clearly. And honestly, unpopular opinion, that training montage is my favorite of the entire series, because of the side by side.
Oh yeah,
they keep showing Rocky on the one side doing this, and then they're showing his Clubber, who doesn't even have his trainers there. He's there just in this dark basement.
Yeah,
and he's doing like the old school training method. He doesn't have any equipment. Yeah. It's basically Rocky IV, how Stallone was.
Yeah, and it's cool
more realistic and not cartoony.
Yeah, no, and it's cool though. But it's cool because
pure grit.
Yeah.
The grunting of T, Mr. T makes that work. Let's face it.
Yeah, no,
he's great.
And you remember in that press conference, where Clubber Lang he makes the pass at Adrian, where his character even says, "Look, I trained by myself. I do the it's like he's letting people know I'm a real challenger.
I'm ranked number one, which means I'm the best."
Exactly, and
you're fighting all these wussy fighters. And then Mickey even admits to Rocky, they were handpicks.
Exactly.
With setups. He's like, no, they weren't setups. They were good fighters, but they didn't deserve to be there.
Yeah, it's like. In other words, it's like
which we'll talk about next week with Hulk Hogan.
Right. Oh my gosh, yeah. No, but it's basically Mickey. He's
There's
like
all these connections.
It's kind of like where Mickey, he might as well have said his famous lines of "They're a bum," like.
Oh but yeah, so also, by the way, here's another one for a trivia fact of something that came from Rocky 3. We talked about already, like with the line, "Hey, yo," from Rocky 2. Rocky 3 also influenced the wrestling world. More on that in a second when we get to the Thunderlips match, but also the character of Clubber Lang. Half of that made up the character of Devon Dudley. Because Devon Dudley was asked,
I did not know that.
Oh, I thought you'd heard this story. Yeah,
No.
Devon Dudley tells this story quite a bit, actually. When he was signed by Paul Heyman for ECW, he didn't have a character. And Paul told him, "Hey, what's your favorite movie?" And he goes, "I thought we were trying to come up with a character." He goes, "Just tell me, what's your favorite movie?" He goes, "Rocky 3. And he goes, "Why? What you love Rocky, huh?" He goes, "Well, I love Mr. T, Clubber Lang." And he goes, "Oh, so you like Mr. T, huh? You really like that?" He goes, "Well, have you ever seen Pulp Fiction?" And Devon said, "No, I have never seen it." He goes, "Well, here's your homework assignment. I want you to go out and rent Pulp Fiction. I want you to pay attention to Samuel L. Jackson's character. And then I want to see you back here next week, and I want you to be a crossbreed between Samuel L. Jackson's Pulp Fiction character and Mr. T's Clubber Lang character."
Wow.
And boom, that's the Devon Dudley character.
Wow.
A mixture of the two, with a little bit of the pastor thrown into that because Devon's family was a real life pastor.
Yeah.
So that's where he got that from.
I mean,
And that's why eventually would do the pastor gimmick even on WWE TV. But yeah,
I mean, I knew that.
Elements in, you get Devon Dudley.
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew that much, that that his family, they were involved in ministry and all that, but I did not. Wow, that is
Yeah,
actually.
if you really go back to those early promos, I'm talking the early ones before the Dudley Boys were a tag team. When Devon came in and he was the one who was, because if you remember, the Dudley Boys were a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them, including Bubba Ray. He won't admit that now, but he was a joke too. Every one of them was a joke. They were all. Bubba was doing the stuttering gimmick, and then here comes Devon, and Devon hates every one of them, and he's telling them off. And he actually uses some of Clubber Lang's lines in those early promos and everything.
Wow.
He starts saying to them, even he goes, "Why don't you start acting like a real man and not a chump and everything?" And he's just perfect.
I mean,
and I was like, wow.
I just kind of have to add this in there, is that it's for me, because ECW, when they came out, you got to remember, it was like middle of the night, early morning, like 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And I really
2 a.m.
Yeah. So it's like I never really got it. I didn't really know that there was something new until.
And it wasn't always on. It was on Madison Square Garden Network, but it was on 2 o'clock in the morning, late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. This is before DVR. I would literally stay up late at night to watch it. Sometimes I would fall asleep and I'd wake up and missed it, or I'd wake up and it wasn't even on because it wasn't always on. It was syndicated. So
it's like for me, I did not even know about it until I want to say a year after Devon was introduced, and that was only because I had friends. They were like, "Hey, look, there's this thing called ECW, blah blah blah," and so then that's when I started staying up. So it's like I totally missed, the introducing of Devon Dudley and all that. But it's like, even going, when I try to go back on it on the network, on the WWE network, I can't really, because how they edit a lot of things and whatever. It's like
I can't stand ECW on the network. I really can't. The music is one bad thing as it is, but just everything that's edited with it. You can't watch ECW on the WWE network.
No, it's like so it's like if there's a way to like a lot of times, like I really got to do a deep search on YouTube or something to just get certain things and whatever. But it's like I wish I had access to. I wish I knew about it. I wish I knew about it at the time, because then I would have just I would have bought a bunch of VHS tapes and just recorded everything.
Yeah, I used to deal with the tape traders all the time back then.
Yeah, no, but it was
until they got on pay-per-view.
Yeah, no, but that's interesting to know that's interesting to know that Devon's character was based off that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was half Clubber Lang and half of Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction. But no, also, another element that came in here, because the Rocky character, even though Rocky wouldn't admit it for the first two movies, but here he had to finally because it was too obvious. It's actually based on Chuck Wepner.
Oh yeah.
Chuck Wepner was actually at WrestleMania 15, by the way. He was one of the judges for the Butterbean fight with Bart Gunn.
Chuck Wepner, and it's funny because I think didn't Chuck Wepner file a lawsuit against Stallone?
Yeah, more than once. Because with Rocky 1 especially, he was trying to sue, and Rocky kept saying, "Oh no, it's not based on you. It's partially based on Rocky Marciano," and that's why they even threw that line in there about where Mickey tells him in Rocky 1 about how you remind me of The Rock.
Because
that was always thrown in there to try and avoid the lawsuit from Chuck Wepner.
No, and it was just the fact that all it is a picture of Rocky Marciano right on his mirror.
right on his wall.
Yeah, his
Right.
wall, right? And Mickey's like, "Oh yeah, you remind me a lot of The Rock," and blah blah blah.
Yeah, and it's never mentioned again until Rocky 5,
Yeah,
which again I'll get to in a bit.
but yeah,
But
but no. I mean, when I'm trying to remember what year was it when I heard about the Chuck Webner thing, but it was just like it was like it makes total sense. It makes total sense. Even
and these will go faster as we go on. It's just that these are the better movies for all you listeners out there.
yeah.
These are the better movies, so we have more to say about them.
No, but it's interesting because okay, in Rocky 3, when he does that cross promotion thing with the Thunder Lips, aka Hulk Hogan.
Well, that's what I was just going to get into.
Yeah.
That's when it finally hit that, okay, Stallone, you're not going to win this lawsuit. And he didn't. Chuck Wepner finally won the lawsuit because it's like, okay, Chuck Wepner not only is this boxer from Philadelphia who got this underdog match with I forgot who it was that he fought even now. But he had this
it wasn't it
underdog
wasn't
match
it
with-
wasn't it it was Muhammad Ali.
Was it Muhammad Ali?
Yeah, it was
I was
Muhammad-
thinking Muhammad Ali, but
Yeah,
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, it was Muhammad
I
Ali.
wasn't sure if it was Ali or Frazier.
No, it was a match against Muhammad Ali, and because I'm
Okay.
remembering the documentary now.
Which actually makes sense, yeah, because Clubber Lang, Clubber Lang, Apollo Creed was basically a ripoff of Muhammad Ali in that first movie.
Exactly, and then what was it? If you really pay attention, if you see any videos of Chuck Wepner, you really pay attention to the way he speaks, to the way his mannerisms, everything. His whole you can see how Stallone just ripped him off. I mean Chuck Wepner even admitted, like, he didn't have a high school diploma. He it was just like you can see like that Rocky was totally based off of him, and then and then of course, like I said, he faced Muhammad Ali, and then with the wrestling match it was Andre the Giant.
Yeah, he wrestled Andre the Giant.
So it's like,
and then here we got Rocky now gonna have a wrestling match, and here's the ironic part. Rocky went to Andre the Giant first. Stallone, I mean. Sylvester Stallone went to Andre the Giant to be in the movie. That right there would have been like, hello.
No, yeah.
He's the guy even.
No,
but Andre turned it down.
Now here's the thing. I'm trying to remember my train of thought with that, but again, it's just you see all of the comparisons and all of that. Where, hey, look, and the fact that Hulk Hogan didn't Hulk Hogan get fired by Vince McMahon Sr. just because he wanted to be?
Well, I was gonna get into that. Stallone actually attended an event. I don't know if it was the famous Shea Stadium event. Don't quote me on that because I don't know. But he went to an event where he tried to confront Andre about doing the movie, and Andre said no because he's a wrestler, and Vince McMahon Sr. would never go for that, even for him to be in a movie.
Yeah.
Ironically, a few years later, Andre would do Princess Bride.
But by that time, he wasn't really in the ring as much.
But hadn't Andre, by the way, before that, hadn't he already done that show where he came in as the Sasquatch?
I don't remember. I think so.
I thought that had already happened.
I think so.
I don't know. There's a good one to look into.
I'll look it up in a minute.
Yeah. So
no,
he confronted Andre. Andre's what?
Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. Stallone had Chuck Wepner on set as well.
With the first Rocky.
Yeah. So again, that gives even more credence of like, holy crap, what the, and everything was, up to Rocky 3, everything was based on Chuck Wepner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And even the way that Joe Frazier is in the first Rocky movie, by the way, and confronts Apollo Creed, and he goes, "Oh, they must be old friends," which is kind of like an inside joke because Apollo Creed is based off the Muhammad Ali character.
Yep.
And Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, we all know about them. So that right there, even. But no, going back to this, yeah. So he actually went and confronted Andre. Andre turned it down, and then he saw Hulk Hogan wrestle Andre the Giant that night. And that's when he got, oh my God, this guy. Can you imagine him standing next to me? He's huge. And so he went to Hulk and asked Hogan if he wanted it, and he said, "I'll pay you this much money." Now, Hogan at the time was not a name.
Nope.
He was in main events with Andre the Giant and all, which Vince would want you to forget years later with WrestleMania 3.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not making any money, and now he's offered this big time deal. So he went to Vince McMahon Sr. and said, "Hey, I just got offered this deal to go work for Mr. Sylvester Stallone. Can I take it?" And he said right out, Vince McMahon Sr. said to him, "Hogan, Hulk, are you a wrestler or are you an actor? Because you're not going to be both." And he goes, "Well, if I'm not going to be both, then I'm taking the acting gig because it's more money." And let's face it, who would turn that down?
And I guess that's what gave him the acting bug. And let's be real, not all of Hogan's movies were good.
Hogan was always right place, right time, really, if you think about it. Because when he was Terry Boulder in Memphis, he went to do a radio show. And Lou Ferrigno, who at the time was doing the Incredible Hulk TV show, happened to also be a guest on that same show as Terry Boulder. But Terry Boulder was just coming in to promote a match with Lawler that he was going to be having. And he stood right next to Lou in the studio, and the radio host seen them standing side by side. He goes, "Who are you?" He goes, "Oh, I'm Terry Boulder." He goes, "Oh, you're Terry Boulder. I got your name here, but I don't know what you look like. But my God, what's with those muscles? You're bigger than Lou Ferrigno. You're bigger than the Hulk.
Yeah.
They should call you the Hulk."
Yeah.
And boom, Hulk Hogan was born.
Because the thing was, what was it? McMahon Sr. wanted to give him the name Hogan and even have have him dye his hair. And he was like, "Well, I'm losing my hair as it is."
He wanted to dye his hair red, yes.
Yeah. So he even says it that he just poured the hair dye into the toilet, flushed it down, and he stayed blonde. So
he kept the blonde hair.
He was a blonde
and
Irishman.
And he lost his hair anyway.
Yeah. He became a blonde Irishman.
But yeah, he was Terry the Hulk Boulder after that. And then he went to New York, and Vince Sr. gave him the name Hogan, and that's how he became Hulk Hogan. He was originally called himself Incredible Hulk Hogan until Marvel tried to sue, and then they dropped the Incredible and just started calling him Hulk Hogan. And then he started to actually have to pay royalties to Marvel, which he made the smartest decision. When Marvel was losing money right before Disney bought them, Hulk Hogan went to them and said, "I know you're losing money. I will pay you this amount of money to buy the rights to the Hulk name, and then you guys just pay me royalties when you use it."
Yep.
And then Disney went ahead and bought Marvel, but they did not get the name Hulk. So now every time any Avengers movie or anything comes out from Disney with Hulk, they have to pay Hulk Hogan.
Here's the question: How much is Linda getting from that?
I know, right?
Because oh my gosh,
how much is Brooks' ex-boyfriend getting from that?
Oh God, yeah. It's like.
But anyway, so yeah, we get one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time, and it takes place in a movie with Thunder Lips versus Rocky. And what made this work so well is that it was real. What I mean by that is that of course they choreographed, but like Stallone went to Hogan and said, "I don't want you to hold back on me. I want you to hit me for real. I want it to look good." And Hogan actually said that he actually held back and only gave him about 50%. And yet he hurt Stallone so much in this scene. Stallone had to take 2 weeks off of filming just to heal up after this match. And they just went crazy on each other. And when Burt Young comes in with that gimmick chair, that wasn't part of the script.
Nope.
He came in because he legitimately thought Stallone was in trouble.
And he just swing away and that freaking chair broke, because he said, again, it's gimmick, but still, come on now.
Stallone was so groggy, by the way. There's an interesting scene at the end of that when they're doing the Polaroid in the ring. His son actually says, "Ow." And he goes, "Don't worry, you're okay." The reason he says "ow" is because Stallone legitimately hurt him.
No,
it's like, dude, you just injured a kid.
No, and then it's funny. Because it's like when they're doing the Polaroid, and he's like, "Man, why you hit me so hard?" or whatever. And then
that's the name of the game.
Yeah, exactly. That was just
Dude, Hogan should have been Thunder Lips in wrestling out there.
Right. That was too perfect. And
he basically did do it though. If you remember WrestleMania 18, Hulk Hogan versus The Rock.
Yep.
He turned that into Thunder Lips versus Rocky. He even starts calling Rock Meatball during the match. "Come on, lights out, Meatball." I'm like, what the heck are you doing here? He's actually turning into Thunder Lips.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Thunder Lips, right? The character Thunder Lips, had the cape, had the hat,
Oh, he was great. That
yeah,
was such. I wonder who came up with that for the movie because that
but
was so good.
but with the Hollywood Hulk Hogan, he had the feather boas. It was still
Yeah.
that
Well, that was
style
because
of.
of Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, but still, even though it's like it kind of it still gave that Thunderlips flair of like
The
look at me, I'm
ultimate
so
male
pretty, yeah,
versus the ultimate meatball.
meatball. It was just too perfect. It was too perfect. I'm just like you said, it was just right timing. It was right timing, man.
Everything in that scene, like I said, that's like probably my favorite wrestling match outside of wrestling.
Hmm.
It's just so good. With the scene in Body Slam being second best, of
Yeah,
course.
we're gonna have to cover that another day.
That's gonna be covered in a review from me
Okay.
eventually.
But no, but you remember Stallone he body slams. Well, he attempts to body
He
slam
tried the body slam.
but
He didn't actually get him all the way up.
yeah, he ends up just kind of throw him over the top rope. And it's funny because it's like it's funny as I started like training for boxing and then wrestling and all of that, right? And then I'm going back to the movies. I'm like, okay, they purposely built that ring with really low ropes.
Yep.
Because they in the movie, Thunderlips was like 7 foot tall,
By the way,
and
no stunt double. Stallone. Everything in that scene is Stallone and is Hogan. There's
yeah,
no
and
stunt
no,
doubles.
and you gotta give Stallone credit. You gotta give Stallone credit,
Absolutely. He got a taste right then and there of wrestling. And Stallone's always been that way because Stallone was good friends with Terry Funk, which I'll get into in a minute. And we got to start getting through this because we're getting going long on this. But yeah, Stallone was friends with Terry Funk. He's seen this. And when he was on the set of Paradise Alley, which is
Mhm,
another great movie with Stallone about wrestling with Terry Funk and all,
mhm,
some of the other actors were making fun of Terry Funk for being involved in pro wrestling, saying, "Oh, it's all fake." And Stallone came to his rescue and said, "Why don't you try it someday and realize these guys work harder than any athlete on the planet? They don't get an off season. They don't get any rest periods.
mhm,
They work night after night doing the same exact stuff. You would never be able to handle it. You'd cry to your mothers after a week." That's
mhm,
what Stallone was quoted saying to the people.
mhm.
So Stallone understood.
I remember hearing an interview about that, and it was just like, wow, Stallone like came to bat for Terry.
Yeah, Cornette mentioned it a few times too.
Hmm. It was awesome, man.
But
Okay,
yeah,
so
he understood it, and they get it all in that scene. But yeah, so Rocky 3 goes on, and then he has the match with Clubber Lang, and he's scared right beforehand because Mickey gets sick, and then he's not in the right mindset, and he loses the title in Madison Square Garden.
mhm,
Big deal there, because Mr. T would then go to Madison Square Garden with Hulk Hogan.
mhm,
Both of them are making their debuts in this movie, and then they become a tag team in WWF for the first WrestleMania in Madison Square Garden. But yeah, so Mr. T wins, and then of course Mickey dies. Very emotional scene to this day.
mhm,
It's still very hard to watch. And yeah, then Stallone, he goes on this whole thing of not even understanding why he's in it, and it really takes him back because, like we said earlier, was the training for that fight. He was so cocky and arrogant,
mhm.
and now Mickey dying and losing the title in the match, he's just like all that cockiness is gone, and he has no confidence left. And ironically, go back and watch that scene on the beach,
Mhm.
and you'll realize that about 90% of the Rock's catchphrases are stolen from that scene from Adrian. The way, I'm not kidding. When the smoke clears
Mhm.
and everybody's through chanting your name, and then go back and listen to The Rock. When the smoke clears and all the Rock's fans are chanting his name, it's the same exact line
Oh
that
God.
Adrian gives to Rocky, and it just says it's just going to be us, and then you're afraid that you're not a man anymore, and everything. All this different stuff that she says there is stuff The Rock said later on, and I'm like, Rock is a complete ripoff of Rocky. But yeah,
That's
so that
crazy.
scene is just so emotional. Again, Talia Shire, Adrian, she's so good, and
Mhm.
everybody who badmouths Stallone's acting, they need to realize it doesn't matter how bad Stallone acts. He's got so many good actors surrounding him in this series that it
Mhm.
carries him.
Mhm.
But yeah, so then he goes on and he beats Clubber Lang, the whole brilliant fight at the end. It looks so fake. It's the fakest looking fight in the entire series, and the worst sound effects as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it. So
Oh yeah.
he's not getting killed. He's getting mad.
No, it's just you can't help. I mean, like you said, it's like the fakest looking fight ever. But
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
but still,
Especially those ending punches when Mr. T's literally got his hands up and he's just punching Mr. T's hands.
if you got it's like the anticipation is it kind of like lets you forget how bad it is.
What looked faker, that fight or Mr. T's boxing match with Roddy Piper?
Oh God. That's another thing. Now that you mention it, because Roddy Piper had nothing good to say about Mr. T. He actually hated Mr. T.
Well, poor Piper, and if you go back and watch that, you can see Piper's not lying about it.
Mm-hmm.
Vince didn't want anything to happen to T. So Piper didn't get to put the gloves on his hands.
Mm-hmm.
They actually put the gloves, Piper made fists,
Mm-hmm.
and they put the gloves on his fists and then taped them around it.
Mm-hmm.
So Roddy Piper's fists are actually at the bottom of the gloves,
Yep.
and everything inside the glove is all padding.
Mm-hmm.
They filled the whole gloves up with padding. So because of this, Roddy's got his hands taped up in fists.
Mm-hmm.
He can't open his hands whatsoever. And they have the spot plan where he's going to go through the ropes. How the heck's he going to grab the rope to save himself from going head first onto the concrete?
Exactly.
And that's exactly what he does. He goes head first onto the concrete because he can't hold on. And that's why, if you notice too, at the end when he picks up the stool and throws it at Mr. T,
Mm-hmm.
he picks it up using his what looks like his wrists, but that's actually where his hands are.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, and I gotta agree with Piper. He said something to the effect of, "Look, if you can't handle it, don't step into my world."
One thing Piper had going against him too was if he had let T win this, T would have destroyed the wrestling business about how, see, these guys are all fake. Because T had already done it the year before when he invited like 30 or 40 freaking women to wrestle at one, thinking they were all going to get front row seats. There weren't even that many front row seats available.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just. Let's put it this way. As far as the Piper and T thing, but I gotta agree. I gotta agree with Piper why he did what he did, and
Absolutely.
I mean I just have to again as someone who was and but I prefer if we're gonna go into non wrestlers getting into the ring, I actually I compared to Piper and Mr. T, you know what? I preferred watching when Mean Gene Okerlund was a tag team wrestler with Hogan.
Yeah, that was good stuff too.
You know what I mean? I mean anything with Mr. T in the wrestling ring, it was just I couldn't support it. I can't support it. Like, okay, it was cool as a kid watching it as a kid, right? But it's like now that I'm older, now with my experiences and everything, it's like no,
I agree, man. I agree. But yeah, let's barrel through this list because we are going way over on our time here. So that's Rocky 3.
I got
and
as
then
much
fourth
time
on the list. Huh?
I was saying I got as much time as needed, on this,
Yeah, but our listeners.
All right. Go ahead.
Our fourth one on the list is the first Rocky movie, and again, we pretty much covered all of that. Rocky, based on the Chuck Wepner character. Sylvester Stallone, I do want to add, he did not audition for the part of Rocky. He actually came to the audition with his brother, Frank Stallone. Frank was auditioning for the role of Rocky, and they did not sign Frank, and they saw Sylvester Stallone hanging out with him, and they said, "Who's that?" He said, "Oh, that's my brother." And he said, "Do you think he'll read?" "Yeah, he'll read." And Frank was like, "Why do they want him to read?" And then they signed Sylvester, and there was actually some tension between Sylvester and Frank. And Sylvester got Frank a role in both Rocky 1 and Rocky 2. He's on the corner. He's the guy singing with the group in front of the fires in the barrel.
Wow. Okay.
That's actually Frank Stallone. So he did get roles in the movie, but he was so jealous of the whole concept that I came for this and my brother got it. And his brother blew up and became huge and he didn't.
Now, didn't now? I thought that Stallone wrote the Rocky script.
Not Rocky 1. No. Stallone co-wrote Rocky 2. I think he wrote all of Rocky 2 actually, and I know he directed Rocky 2. And then when that did badly, he then didn't direct. I think he also directed 3 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't direct all of them because he was having problems with. No, Rocky 1, which was the best one, well accepted wise, because it was actually up for an Oscar and everything, and Stallone was even up for an Oscar. That was not written or directed by Stallone. Stallone added some elements to make the character more like himself, like while they were filming, but the script itself was not written by Stallone for Rocky 1. No. Okay. Rocky 2, yes. Rocky 1, no.
Okay, go. Okay, I just wanted to clear that up.
So yeah, that's pretty much Rocky, and I covered it all earlier when I talked about with Rocky 2 about, you weren't here, but when I was talking about Rocky 2 and saying the differences between Rocky and Rocky 2, I pretty much covered everything with Rocky 1 that was important for the story. And again, that's why it's fourth, because it's not really important for the franchise. But again, because they didn't know they were building a franchise, they thought they were just doing a movie. So I don't fault it. It's just not the best. You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
So moving on, we go to the fifth one on the list, which is Rocky Balboa, which was Rocky 6. Why they didn't call it Rocky 6? Same freaking reason that Stallone decided to call his movie Rambo. The final one in the series. Well, not the final one. I think they did another one after that, but Rambo. Or John Rambo. Which one was it called? Rambo or John Rambo? I can't remember.
The last one in the series?
I don't know if it was the last one in the series or the second to last one in the series, but the one that came back after part 3. It was like part 4 in the series.
Let me check real quick.
Because the first movie was not even called Rambo. The first movie was actually just called First Blood.
Yeah.
But it's been since renowned. Now it's known as Rambo First Blood, but it was just First Blood. And then the second one was Rambo First Blood Part 2, and then First Blood Part 3. And
yeah. Okay.
And then it was either Rambo or John Rambo. I can't remember which one he called it, but
I'm doing a Google search trying to find something that says it. Okay, it was First Blood, then Rambo First Blood 2, then it was Rambo The Force of Freedom, then it's Rambo 3 in 88.
Rambo The Force of Freedom?
Yeah, and then
was that the TV show?
I don't know. No, then there's Rambo 2000. In 2008, it was just Rambo.
Yes, Rambo. Well, there you go.
Yeah, but, so it's like what, the second to last, or no, it is the last.
Yeah, one. But that's why he did the whatever reason he did that. That's the reason why he decided to call this Rocky Balboa. Because Rocky Balboa, let's face it, a lot of people. I think the reason the movie didn't do so well, and I know that Cinemaster covered this same concept, but I agree with them. I think that the reason the movie did badly was because people didn't know it was a new movie. Because they thought, oh, Rocky Balboa, I've seen that. They only realized this is Rocky 6. So why didn't they just call it Rocky 6? It made no sense.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you know, personally speaking, it's just, it made no sense at all. It made no sense.
No, it didn't. It was really dumb to call it that.
Because it was like when I first heard, oh, there's a new Rocky movie called Rocky Balboa. I thought it was they were doing a remake. You know?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people thought. They thought this was a remake of the original, or it was just the original being re-released.
Yeah, you know, it's just,
and that's why it did so poorly. Ironically, by the way, it's the first one I actually got to see in the movie theater. And it's the first one that used the new technology. They actually did not film the fight scene for the movie. They didn't film it.
No, it was
they
like CGI.
piggybacked to save some money, huh?
It was like a mix of CGI and some other things.
No, not at all.
Really? I thought
actually what they did was, and this is really cool, and it was used later on with Creed and some of the other ones as well. But Stallone wanted his fight to look more like what he was watching on pay-per-view. So he contacted his friends at HBO pay-per-view and said, how can I make my movie look like that? They said, well, you could let us film it.
Oh wow.
Can we do that? They're like, yeah, we actually have a big fight coming up in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And Stallone's like, well, I didn't even start shooting my movie yet. And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, well, do your fight first.
Mm-hmm.
So the fight was actually the first thing done, and Stallone quickly went into this long regime of training to make himself look great
Mm-hmm.
for the fight. And he had been trying to contact Roy Jones Jr.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get into this really less than I want to because I don't really want to completely rip on Roy Jones Jr., but
Mm-hmm.
you'll see why based on my brief description here what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But he kept trying to contact Roy Jones Jr. to play in the movie as the villain, well, as the opponent, I should say. But Roy Jones Jr. looked at it that he was going to be a villain because I'm up against Rocky, I'm a villain.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, I'll do it if I win. And Stallone said, you're not going to win. And Roy Jones Jr. then never called him back. He wouldn't answer the phone.
He ends up, but
ironically, he would agree though to do Creed. He came in and did Creed.
but
He didn't boxing Creed. He was an announcer, but he
No,
still was part of Creed.
no, but okay, he did not agree to hire Roy Jones because Roy Jones wanted to win. We're talking about Sly.
You're putting it on Stallone.
No, yes I am. Yes I am because if come on, in Rocky Balboa, Rocky didn't even win.
Well, no, Rocky didn't win this either. No, they just made it a decision. Like I mean, when I say he didn't want to win, I mean he didn't want him to win by knockout.
But either way, either way, Stallone was not gonna allow his character to be knocked out. He could have just said, okay, fine, but you're not gonna win by knockout. You're gonna win by decision. And it was
Well, that's what he told him. Yeah,
okay.
Because that's what Tarver did. Tarver won by decision.
Okay.
Tarver won the match.
Okay.
He just won by decision.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So I mean, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
I said that wrong. I didn't mean win in general. I meant win by knockout.
Oh, okay.
But
so Roy Jones wanted to win by knockout.
right, Roy Jones though was the guy that Stallone wanted to play Mason Dixon,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't work out. So then he met Antonio Tarver. Antonio Tarver agreed to it, and he told Tarver, he said, "This is gonna be different than any fight we've done. We're gonna film 3 endings so that the live audience doesn't get because they basically filmed at an actual HBO pay-per-view.
Yeah, they didn't want to give
live.
He didn't want to give out spoilers. He's like, these are the 3
Yes.
endings, and wait until the movie comes
A
out.
real boxing fight went on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was before or after, so I don't want to be quoted on that. I don't know if the pay-per-view went on before or after the fight. I think it was after, but I don't remember.
I would think so. I would think so. Just for.
I think they did the filming before the pay-per-view. I think.
Yeah, I would think so due to the for the time constraints of pay-per-view stuff. Yeah, I doubt that.
But yeah, they actually were able to get a Mike Tyson cameo out of that because Mike Tyson happened to be at the boxing match, and Stallone asked him, "Hey, how would you like to appear in the movie for this amount of money?"
Mm-hmm.
And so they did that spot where he's yelling at Antonio Tarver's character. But they didn't bring Tyson in. He was just there. Same with Michael Buffer, all those people. They were there for the pay-per-view.
No, yeah, but
so it was a big deal.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is that I doubt they would have done it after because by the time the pay-per-views after, you got the crowd. They're gonna want to go home. They're not gonna want to stay for to shoot a part of a movie. So I'm assuming they did it. So they did it before the pay-per-view. Again because of time constraints and what have you. It would, with the pay-per-view logistically. And all of that, it makes more sense. And
they didn't know how the crowd was going to react either. By the way, the crowd was not told to chant Rocky. Mm-hmm. They stood up and did that on their own, and it was just like, wow. They get this. And there's a funny thing, by the way, on that too, and it's been documented by many people, including people in the sports world. That pay-per-view, none of the fights got the reaction that the freaking Rocky fight got. He got the bigger reaction out of the whole pay-per-view. People who went to that pay-per-view even said the best part of the night was the Rocky segment. But yeah, so Stallone told Tarver in the back, he wanted to have an actual sparring match with him in the ring. And no holding back, no more fake camera tricks. Let's just go out there and beat each other up.
Mm-hmm.
Hold back a little bit because you don't want to be killed,
Yeah.
but a sparring match,
Yeah.
you know?
Like like an actual exhibition.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's just go out there and have a sparring match. He
Mm-hmm.
goes, because we're going to do the montage anyway to speed it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously they didn't go all 12 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
They sped it up using their camera techniques, which you can see.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't film the fight. It was filmed by the HBO pay-per-view people, and they gave them the tape. And then they spliced in their editing and everything and made it into this amazing scene that you saw. But I remember watching it in the theater, because we're watching it in the theater, and all the stuff in the movie that happens in the movie was actually filmed after the fight, even though it takes place before the fight in the movie. And that's why if you actually pay attention to those scenes, Stallone's all bruised up on his face and all from the fight.
But but
the whole movie.
But that's not really
the fight that didn't happen yet.
But that's not really a new thing as far as movies. A lot of movies, they when they're recording, they're taping, or they film it from the end to the beginning.
So right, I get that. And also because Stallone looked at it too, that he wouldn't have to bulk up for the whole movie just for that scene. Yeah. That's why throughout the whole movie's covered up, but that also worked because he's in the cold streets of Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it just felt so cool in the theater though, seeing the style of the movie change completely once it got to that pay-per-view moment. And we see the HBO pay-per-view come up. And I remember telling my brother in the theater, I'm like, dude, this feels like a real pay-per-view. Yeah. This feels like the real deal. And Michael Buffer giving the stats of Rocky Balboa's history in boxing. It was just so good.
Oh no, I agree because even in all of the movies combined, where Rocky's in the ring and you hear somewhat commentary, right? Here and there between the montages and what have you, right? It's like it still feels it's a movie, but in this it's like, oh shoot, this is a pay-per-view, it
felt so real. It was so cool. Like the announcers and all, and
like the old school, like the old school closed caption WrestleMania events. It's like you're in the theater and you're wow, cool.
Two interesting things happened though because of it being a real sparring match. The first was that when Stallone gets knocked down, it wasn't in the script. That was legit, and he couldn't get up. And they almost had to yell cut and redo it, and it would look so bad in front of a live audience, but they almost had to. Because if you notice at one point, Stallone gets knocked down, and he keeps grabbing the ropes and falling back down.
Yep.
That was legit.
Wow.
He couldn't get up. And he finally did get up at 9, and then when he punches the rope, that was legit anger out of Stallone because he couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. And they almost had to yell cut and redo it because it wasn't part of the script. But the other thing that happens is when Tarver punches him and hurts his hand, and then Duke yells, "Go after him!" That was legit. He legitimately broke his hand punching Sylvester Stallone. And it actually caused it. He actually was upset for a little bit there, and then he got over it that he did the movie because he felt like, man, this just ruined it. Now I can't box. Yeah. Because he can't box in real life with a broken hand.
No, and it's interesting because, between the rounds in the movie, Mason Dixon, how he's like, man, it's like I'm punching a wall of bricks, like, or no, it's like he has bricks in his hands or something like that. It's just he makes that comment, and then next thing you know,
he said it's like punching a brick wall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like he makes that comment, and it's interesting to find out that he actually did break his hand. It wasn't a script or something.
It wasn't. It was. I think it was supposed to be in the script that he was going to do it, but he actually did it early before it was set to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm not totally sure on that. But yeah, it legit happened. The other thing that was interesting, and this is the last thing we're going to note about this before we move on to the next one, is that originally the script did include Talia Shire's Adrian, and a lot of fans actually gave a lot of heat backlash towards Rocky, told Sylvester Stallone for not including her. Mm-hmm. But every time he had her in the script, it just didn't feel like he would actually have a reason to come out of retirement, because they didn't completely ignore Rocky V saying he had brain damage, which a lot of people thought they did. In reality, it's just Stallone explained that he went to one doctor in Rocky V that said that he's got brain damage, can't box anymore. But technology had changed over the years, and they said, oh, it's not that bad. You can still box. So things had changed. But with Adrian in the picture, and I kind of agree with this, she would have been like, no, you're not getting in the ring anyway. There's no reason for this. And even the whole argument of there's still stuff in the basement and all that, they told Paulie, it wouldn't have held ground because Adrian would have fought it. And plus, you would have lost the element of Adrian's restaurant. This added a whole new element to Rocky, that he's a broken down guy. He's already lost his wife to cancer. He just doesn't have anything left to really care about in his life.
Mm-hmm.
His kid doesn't want anything to do with him. So he wants to get back into boxing.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a much more related element. And he asked Talia Shire, too.
Mm-hmm.
He said, do you know any other way we can write this? And she said, no, that's perfect. Write me out of the movie and do it.
No,
She told him to do it.
No, and then if you think about whatchamacallit, you think about the Paulie character, how, you know, at the end before the last round, where he's like, you know, no, even
The
before,
last drop of your life.
yeah, no, but it's like even before the fight, how he's like, look, you know, when he tells him, I can't do this no more, you know, like he's like, you know,
Yeah, I actually was really upset after I saw all the deleted scenes,
mm-hmm.
because there was a whole new story with Paulie that was cut out of this movie, where Paulie actually gets a girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and he's madly in love with her, and he's like telling Rocky, even, this is the one, I think, Rocco. I'm finally gonna find happiness with a woman and all. And then when he loses his job and loses his temper, he actually gets in a huge fight with her. He doesn't strike her or anything, but he just, the way he treats her,
Mm-hmm.
he goes back to being Paulie, and she leaves him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what totally sets him off to go into that rampage when he comes into the Adrian's restaurant, like we see with the meat, and then starts yelling at Rocky. It's because he's lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he's even agreeing, if you got a shot to get back in the ring and do something, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hold back, because I just blew it again.
Yeah.
But they felt that it wasn't needed.
It would have been.
Kind of feel like it was.
Yeah, it would have added that extra element, definitely.
Yeah, I was like, that's kind of a big deal. And the movie wasn't even that long. It only made it an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of surprising that they didn't just leave all of those scenes in, because that was a lot of scenes.
I mean, it could have easily gone the 2 hours.
I guess they didn't want to take away from Rocky. I don't know.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, you know, in from the first Rocky to 5, they developed Talia Shire's character, you know, the Adrian character. They really developed her from being this shy girl to, you know, a self-confident woman that's not afraid to speak her mind. And with Paulie, it just remains the same of a drunk guy with anger issues. It would have been interesting to develop his character a little bit more, adding that extra element of it, you know, it really develop it, and just add that extra element to the movie.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, when I found out that was there, I was like, why did they cut this? Mm-hmm. It just didn't make sense to me. But yeah, moving on. Number 6 on the list, I believe we're at. Yes, number 6 on the list is Rocky 5. Mm-hmm. This is where I get the most hatred from people, because I put 5 above the final 2 on the list, mm-hmm. and people think that 5 is the worst. Everybody is stuck in this stupid mindset that Rocky 5 is the worst movie in the Rocky series, and it doesn't belong there. And they even use the argument, well, Stallone himself has said he hates the movie. Stallone has said he hates the movie because he wants to make money off the fans, and he knows that if he supports a movie they hate, mm-hmm. they're not going to agree with him anyway.
Yep.
So he's going to say whatever the fans think. So don't listen to that. Let's get into 5 by bringing up the others in the list first. And then I'm going to explain that in a minute.
Yeah.
Next on the list would be Rocky 4, and finally Creed 2. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm bringing them all up like that is because Creed 2 is the perfect sequel to Rocky 4. And Rocky 4 was the worst movie in the series. Creed 2 in more ways than 1. 1, because it was a worse movie, but also because it did add new elements to the story of Rocky 4 that weren't there. Mm-hmm. It made Rocky 4 a better movie. Mm-hmm. So we're going to discuss all 3 of these movies at the same time, and this is going to be how we speed this up. Mm-hmm. But also because I want to point out why Rocky 5 is better than Rocky 4 and Creed 2 together. Starting with Creed 2's problems, which there's a lot of. Mm-hmm. and I was so disappointed with Creed 2. Creed 2 is, like I said, the perfect sequel to Rocky 4, and that's where that ends.
Mm-hmm.
And feel free to jump in if you don't agree with something on this, but in Creed 2, they have just a bunch of stuff happening that's not being explained. Like, we get pieces of the fact that Ivan Drago's son is not being loved anymore by his mother, who did return. Oh, by the way, huge deal to bring back Bridget Nielsen to come in and not have one speaking line in the freaking movie.
Oh yeah, because she's yeah. I'm not gonna
She's
say.
just there.
Yeah, I'm
She
not.
sits down, she's watching the fight, she gets up, she leaves the fight.
Yeah, I mean, Brigitte Nielsen. She's the person. You know, I don't know. I don't know if you've seen the show that she did with Flavor Flav and
Yes.
VH1. Okay, you and
She was also dating Flavor Flav, so
yeah. So it's you know, the fact that she didn't have a speaking role, you know, it's kind of like a miracle to me. You know, and
I know it's like why I know she did Rocky 4 because she was dating. We're going back to trivia for a minute, by the way. Rocky 4, she was dating Sylvester Stallone.
Mhm.
Now here's the irony, and this is where we're going back to trivia. Beverly Hills Cop was a movie that was originally bought, and when it was bought by the studio, they wanted it to be a Sylvester Stallone movie. And Sylvester Stallone came in and rewrote the whole script, and the Mikey Tandino character was actually going to be his brother, not his best friend. And he was also going to be played by his brother, by the way. Frank Stallone was going to play the role, and he was going to be killed. And then Stallone's character of, I forgot what he was calling himself, but it was not Axel Foley. It was Axel something else. But he was going to be the cop that saves him and all. And the girl, Jenny Summers, who became Axel Foley's friend in Beverly Hills Cop, she was actually going to be his girlfriend, and she was going to be played by Bridget Nielsen because they were dating. And it was a whole nother movie. And the ending sequence was going to have Victor Maitland and Axel in this big car chase scene, and then Victor was going to blow up in the car. It was dubbed way too expensive, especially for that time frame. The studio did not want to put up the money. Stallone refused to cut it out of his script and decided to walk. And he took all his script that he wrote and took it and walked away. And the movie, as we know, went to Eddie Murphy, and it was changed to a comedy. Sylvester Stallone would take that movie that he had written, and he would use it to write another script.
Then he do
a
Cobra.
Movie called Cobra.
Yes, that's what I said. Cobra.
Which also starred Bridget Nielsen.
Yep.
Now here's some more trivia on that, though. Beverly Hills Cop got funny with this. They really did. Because Beverly Hills Cop 2 comes out.
Yep.
And who's the main villain in Beverly Hills Cop 2? Who plays that villain? Bridget Nielsen.
Yep.
Now, as a little bit of an extra joke, we go to Billy Rosewood's house, and we see that he's now become this massive gun nut who loves these violent movies. What's he got a poster of on the back wall? Cobra.
you gotta love
some great freaking storytelling.
Oh yeah, no, you gotta love the humor, that ironic humor, how they're kind of poking fun at it, and
then they throw one more too in that movie as well.
Go ahead. You gotta say it.
I'm not using the word. I'm not going to anyway because I don't want to use it on this podcast. But no, yeah, because he keeps on calling him, you're like Billy Rosewood or Billy Rambo.
Yeah.
F Rambo. Yeah. So it's just so funny. But anyway, back to the Rocky stuff.
But
so that's Creed 2, and it's basically nothing.
I mean,
here's Adonis becomes a real jerk all through the movie. I hated him. I loved him in Creed, and here I hate his character. He becomes such an arrogant jerk.
Well, here's the thing: they develop Bianca more. You know, Tessa Thompson's character. They develop her character a little bit more. If because you find out, in Creed, she didn't have any issues, and then in Creed 2, it turns out that she's been losing her hearing, but she's still writing.
No, she didn't have her hearing in the first movie either.
For real, because
she was deaf in the first movie.
I didn't notice that. I did not notice that.
Yeah, she was deaf in the whole first movie. That's why she doesn't notice how loud her music and all is when he goes downstairs pounding on the door saying he
Oh,
has to get up early to train.
oh, I see.
She's deaf already.
Oh no, I see. I didn't notice that because don't I? Because
Oh yeah,
and
that was
two
there.
and two. That's when I noticed with the hearing aids and he's learning
In two, they're
sign
worried about the
language
baby
and
coming out deaf because the mother is deaf,
yeah.
but she was born. She was deaf all through the first
Yeah,
movie. Even
but
yeah.
but still though they're still developing her character even more. How she, they're adding the extra element of the baby. They're actually and I think the only thing that redeems Michael B. Jordan, Adonis's character is once the baby is born, when he takes the baby to the and he's like ticked off,
Yeah, but here's the thing with that.
mhm,
The baby is the most pointless character in the movie because he brings the baby with him to the gym while he's training,
mhm.
and he just starts crying over the baby. But why is this there? You know
Well,
what I mean?
okay, well, I'm gonna tell you as a father. Okay, I'm gonna tell you as a father. Okay, this is most dads will be able to relate to this. Um, okay, when my baby girl was born, girl was born, okay, I went through my own frustrations. I went through my own frustrations. I took, I took my baby girl. We were going for just for a walk, and with Adonis, he started letting out his frustrations on the bag, and then you hear how the baby's crying and whatever. For me, I just started kind of like screaming and yelling, and the whole point with the baby there and whatever, it gives Adonis Creed that ray of light. It gives him that reminder, hey, look, it's no longer about me. I got to worry about this kid too. I got to worry about this beautiful child that came into the world. And so it's I think most parents will go through that where they're feeling down and out, they're feeling down and out, but then it's like, wait a minute, I got this beautiful child. I got this beautiful child that's making my life better. I gotta be better for them. It's kind of that aha moment for Adonis, where he's like, I gotta be better for my child. So it's like it gives it that reality to it.
I guess I get that, but the other problem I have with that scene is Bianca. She just became a mother,
Mm-hmm.
and she already just like is like, okay, I'm leaving, I'm going out, and you take care of the baby.
But that's normal. That's a normal
But she's
thing.
a brand new mother.
But
It's
it
not like
doesn't
she's about to
matter.
get
It
rid of
doesn't
kids.
matter. No, it doesn't matter. Some mothers, they will, when a baby is born, some mothers they're really protective and will always be, just there for no matter what. Some mothers, they go through postpartum depression. Other mothers, they kind of have a moment of, look, I got to get away. And
I don't
but
know. I agree
but
to disagree, I guess, with
no,
you.
well, I'm just telling you from experience, and from knowing different mothers and what have you, and kind of going through something similar. It's a hormonal thing. It's a hormonal thing that she was going through. At the same time, you got to remember, Adonis was being a jerk. you know,
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Even Adonis is being a jerk, and I get ticked off about it because it's
so
like you made us like this character, and now you're making us hate this character,
yeah. So but
and he's the main character.
yeah. So it's kind of like in that moment. Okay, it's kind of like in that moment where everything happened, where Bianca, when she leaves, to get away, and what have you, and then Adonis takes the baby and all of that. It's kind of like it somewhat redeems Adonis, because he has that moment of clarity, because he's not just thinking about the baby, he's also thinking about Bianca. He's, oh, I got to be a better person. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm this, I'm that, kind of like that moment of clarity. And and then when he goes, he basically apologizes to Bianca. It's kind of like that, it kind of was like, okay, I get it, type of moment. Now you got to admit though that Tessa Thompson, I mean, she killed the music, when she was singing him down the aisle to the ring. In my opinion, I think the best part of that movie was just the song right there where she's walking him to the ring. That's just my opinion, though.
Explain this if you get this one or not.
Mm-hmm.
The desert training scene.
I have no freaking clue, bro.
What is going on here?
I have
He's
no
hitting
idea.
tires with sledgehammers and
It's almost like he's going back to basics type of deal, And
yeah, but even so, it didn't even feel like that. It felt like I was watching a different movie.
Well, if you remember because Creed 2 is basically the sequel to Rocky 4.
Rocky 4.
Okay,
and he goes to Russia. I get it.
Yeah, so it's kind of I think he did that on purpose. Kind of like, look, this is how I train. Kind of like, look, this is how I train to fight his dad. This is how you're gonna train to fight his son.
I know you're not gonna agree with this. Probably a lot of people do, and a lot of people don't. But to me, Creed 2 is no longer about Adonis Creed. He's not the main guy. He's not the one I'm rooting for. Mm-hmm. I'm rooting for Drago Jr.
I will agree with you.
He had a better story development. The story developed between Drago Jr. and Ivan Drago, the father and son.
Yep.
The father loses his wife because he feels like he lost his whole country after losing the Rocky. Everything fell apart. His wife left him. He's left with this kid. That's all he's got left. He just wants to see his son succeed and get him his retribution back for his country. Mm-hmm. Hopefully get the mom to come back so he can reconcile. Everything there is perfectly developed for that character.
I agree.
And it just feels better because now you got a son who is also wanting his mother's affection back, but at the same time he loves his father and he's trying to make everything right for his father and he's losing the fight. And then the ending, even when Adonis beats him, and I'm so mad because I wanted to see Drago win, but then he's just like, finally goes up to him. He's like, it's okay. You did your best. And we just see that line of heart come into the Ivan Drago character.
No, I agree.
I wanted to see that movie.
No, I agree. No, I agree. I will agree with you on that. I will agree with you. Again, but this goes back to the fact that they did the whole, 180 turn on Adonis. They turned him heel for most of the movie.
They turned him heel, and then they tried to turn him babyface.
Yeah,
no, like, yeah. What? No, go be your heel.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, the baby scene at the gym and all that kind of redeemed him a bit, but not by much. But I agree. I agree that I wanted to see Drago Jr. win, and then the fact that at the end when Ivan Drago, like you said, when he said no, it's okay. It's kind of like, what? Forget about. He basically said, forget about your mother. It's okay. You did great. I'm still proud of you. It's like that redeems Ivan Drago. That
I would rather watch Michael B. Jordan playing the stupid freaking character that he played in the Fantastic Four remake than watch Creed 2. But yeah, so Creed 2 is a good sequel to Rocky 4, as I said, because of the Drago story. Everything else, I can cut away. I don't care about it.
Well, and going back into Rocky 4 on why it's not even one of the best movies. And remember, we were talking about this. All it is just a big, huge training montage. There was like no acting.
Which is literally what I was about to say, but you could say it.
Yeah, but for real, it was just one big, huge training montage. I
actually did it before. I actually went through and I timed the movie without singing montages, any kind of musical stuff, because the movie opens with the montage showing the past from Rocky 3. So that's one montage. Then it cuts to a second montage that is the two fists punching each other and everything, and showing the past fight with Apollo and Rocky from Rocky 3. Again, we are now 6 minutes into this movie, and we haven't got any new footage yet. Everything's been from Rocky 3. 6 minutes in to a new movie, you're still showing previous stuff. That's bad. Then Rocky's kid has somehow gone through a time warp. He's, which I'll get to on another one, too, when I get to 5.
Oh, Lord.
But But it's just like, what happened? How's he so much older? This is supposed to be the next day. That's why Rocky's got a shiner and all, because he just had this fight with freaking Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh, and by the way, Stallone is making a director's cut now of Rocky Ford. It's coming out on Blu-ray, where he's cutting out all of the stuff with Paulie. He's cutting out all the stuff with the robot, and he's trying to make the movie better. And I'm just like, dude, no.
I'm gonna say this. The part with the robot that was better than the training montages.
Well, the other thing with the robot that I give it credit when I learned later on, I guess what happened is Stallone's kid was very sick, and that robot was his good friend because he was busy all the time with filming and all. So that robot was like the one thing that helped keep his son like spirits up. And so he was so proud of it that's why he wanted to put it in the movie. So on that, I understand, but they shouldn't have given it as much time as they did, and they completely killed it when they had her talking like a freaking female and talking dirty to Paulie.
Happy birthday! But you remember in the beginning, it's like "Happy birthday, Paulie," and it's like, "Here's your drink, pal."
No, not that. I'm talking about later.
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying
voice.
That's what I'm saying. I'm comparing the voices, right? Where the first voice was like,
I get you.
So it's like the first was "Happy birthday, Paulie," and then the other one is like basically like she was a porn actress, like. You're like, here you go, star, or whatever the compliment that she gave him when she gave him the beer.
But yeah, the whole movie, as I was saying, it's just montage after montage, and then it goes to some of that stuff going on, and then it goes to our next song. They're singing "Happy Birthday." I'm sorry, but it's still a song. And then they go to a montage of who is Ivan Drago, and we see him doing his training over there and how strong he is and everything. And it cuts to Apollo in a pool with a dog. He's watching this on TV.
Yep.
And then he calls Rocky and says he's coming up to see him. And he's talking to Rocky about this. And then we go to more footage from the past as Rocky and Stallone, or Rocky and Stallone. Yeah, okay. Rocky and Apollo are watching their old fight from Rocky 2. So again, we're seeing more of why this movie sucks and we should be watching one of those other movies, because even they would rather watch Rocky 2. They're watching it. So, yeah, we do that. And then we go to another montage of this whole deal of East versus West and everything. And it's more music. And we're going to the press conference then. And the press conference is the best scene in the movie. That's not arguable. That's the best scene in the whole movie. Yeah. Paulie arguing with the Russian government. And then Apollo's the whole deal about being better than everybody and everything, and then all that stuff. Why do you insult us? All of it. It's just so good. I think the first thing you got to do is get Apollo a ladder. It's just so good. But it was Drago perfect. Knocks down the cardboard cutout of Apollo, and what happens? More music. Yeah. We cut to more music. Now we get a montage of everybody entering this arena for this fight. And by the way, we're only like 20 minutes into the movie, and this is already happening even. We're already into a big fight, and it's like 20 minutes in, and nothing has happened in the movie other than setting this fight up. And now the fight's about to happen, and then we get the banter between Apollo and all in the back with Rocky, and Rocky's getting ready to go to the fight, but guess what? We still can't get the fight. Why? Because now we have to have a freaking another 6-minute montage musical number from James Brown performing "Living in America."
Yep. I wonder how much money.
James Brown.
I mean, I love the song. I do, but
so do I. But it did not belong here.
Yeah. It was. I wonder. The question is, how much money did James Brown make just for that appearance?
No idea, but yeah. So that goes on.
No.
Gets in the ring.
No. But even before he gets in the ring, right? Apollo. He basically has like a wardrobe change, right? Like, he goes from dressing up however he's dressing up, and then he goes into his the red, white, and blue vest with the hat and all that. And sorry. By
the way, watch that scene. You'll see that throughout it, Apollo's gloves keep coming on and off his hands, despite the fact that they were taped on.
Oh no! I saw it. I saw it. I was wondering about that.
It off throughout that whole scene.
Yeah, I was wondering about. I was like, what the, what's going on there?
Movie mistakes. Yep. So yeah, he's in the ring and he's getting ready.
Inconsistent. It's inconsistent editing, unlike at the movies. Sorry, had to plug you.
Always plug me. So yeah, then they have the fight, which in real life, um, what the heck's his name now? Why can't I think of Ivan Drago's real name? Dolph Lundgren. Yep. Dolph Lundgren was actually getting very rough with Carl Weathers to the point where Carl Weathers yelled "cut" himself, and he walked off the set.
Wow!
And he said, "I'm not doing the movie." And Sylvester Stallone had to delay filming, which cost them millions of dollars. He had to delay filming for several days until he could finally talk Carl Weathers back onto the set to finish the scene.
I mean, millions
Dolph
of
Lundgren
dollars.
was just too rough with.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it. Millions of dollars, to keep, whatever the name of that theater was where they held that fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you got to keep everything set up exactly as it is because you already started filming the scene. Even
exactly, and it's and then you gotta pay the extras to come back. You gotta pay the extras to come back. You gotta pay the camera crew.
Which I wonder if that's why he has that. What we just talked about, those movie mistakes of the gloves going on and off.
Probably.
Maybe they were reshoots.
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised.
And they just couldn't remember where to put them.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at this point. It's just.
But yeah, so they do the scene and Apollo dies. And again, this is one of two things that happens in this movie that actually matters. Other, like I said, the whole movie doesn't matter except two things, and that's one of them.
Yep.
So then,
and this was what
do we do?
And this was what 30 minutes into it.
Yeah. Now what do we do when we have this movie? We just had a scene. So what do we have to do?
Montage.
Cue to a montage. Now Stallone is driving in his car to No Easy Way Out, having memories of old Rocky movies again, seeing clips from Rocky 3, Rocky 2, Rocky 1, even some of the clips from earlier in the movie, by the way. Their own movie. They're reshooting. This is, how people hate clip shows in TV shows?
Yep.
Why do people defend this movie when this movie is a clip show of the Rocky series? And even a clip show has some new footage, so don't even give me that argument. This is a clip show. This is not a movie. It's a clip show.
That's what it is.
We get that montage. And then he comes back and he talks to Adrian really quick about going to Russia. And then it goes to another montage. Where now
but wait a minute.
More flashbacks and thinking about having the fight.
Hold on. Isn't this the movie where he I might be and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this the movie where he tells Adrian, I wouldn't stop you from being a woman, don't stop me from being a man?
Yeah, basically. Not in those words, but yeah.
But pretty much the same context. It's like,
and
is it why you got to go
again? Going back to Talia Shire, she's always so good.
Oh yeah.
But even in this, she's stretching it when she gives the line of, I got it all in the past, but I don't understand this. You heard all the papers are saying you've seen him. Don't you see how strong he is? You can't win. And he's like, I gotta do what I gotta do. What the heck does that mean? He's not even trying anymore. She's trying. He's not.
Yeah.
So he gets back in the car and he goes back for another montage. And then he's got this press conference that he holds where they actually used, this is ridiculous for any movie to do this. If you're going to have newspaper headlines, they should not ever be for a major plot point, especially when the newspaper is going by in a blink of a second. Because if you blinked, you missed this. But did you know, let me see if you knew this, because nobody knows this. I'm the only person who ever paused each newspaper to look at them. The newspapers actually revealed 3 major plot points that are never, ever explained other than in those newspapers. One is that the fight is going to take place in Russia because Ivan Drago has been banned from boxing in the United States after the fight with Apollo Creed.
I remember that.
Did you know that?
I remember that. I don't remember all 3. I remember at least 2 of them.
The second is that the boxing organization has now made it so this fight is not sanctioned.
Yeah, that was the second thing that I knew.
And the third is that, and this one is very important because it's totally just thrown out the window for the 5th movie, But the third is that if Rocky does this movie, they're going to strip him of the title.
Wow. See, that I didn't know.
Now, here's the problem with these things. One, they're pretty important freaking things.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, Rocky, after having another montage, I'm not kidding about the montages, but another montage, he then arrives in Russia after this montage, after arguing with Adrian too, and she's not coming. But at the start of the fight, they say, this is not for the title. Why would it be? They stripped them.
They
already forgot their own plot points.
Yeah.
And they even have, at the press conference, they have Drago's wife say, we are doing this in Russia because I fear for my husband. No, it's because we just seen on the newspaper that he was banned from the States. So all those points, they don't even matter at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then Rocky arrives in Russia, and he goes to his first training montage.
Oh, and before all of this, right? It was for Christmas or New Year's or something, right?
It's gonna be on Christmas Day,
Yep.
Which brings us more music as we see a scene of them playing chess to the Chipmunks' Christmas song, and then Rocky's montage, and now he's got a full beard, and Adrian has arrived, and says a bunch of stuff that doesn't even matter about how she's here for him, and that she's gonna stand by him no matter what because that's her man. And then what does it do? It cuts to another training montage, which is the famous one we talked about earlier. Where he's like doing all this training in this old-fashioned way and running up the mountain and then ending with the whole Drago. And meanwhile, that one is a little bit, that's the best montage of this movie because at least we get to see Drago's side of the training while this is going on, like side by side. It's nothing like the Clubber Lang one.
Family Guy did a parody to that montage.
Yeah, I seen that. That was funny. A bunch of people did a parody of it, by the way.
But my favorite gotta be the Family Guy one. Where Brian is like he's training. He's supposed to be studying for a test, and all he's doing is training. Because Stewie goes, "What are you waiting for?" And like Mick or something. And then he does the mountain climb. He's like, "Drago!" It's like, oh, the test is in like 3 minutes or whatever. And then of course they make the reference to the A-Team in that episode as well. But anyway, so
then we see too Drago is taking steroids. In fact, we see that during that montage. But then it cuts to the second important part of this movie, which is the fight scene. And again, most of that fight though is also a montage.
Yes, it is.
It's all done in music. Now, like I said, I did the math before. I went through and I took out all the scenes of music, including that part of the fight that's montage. Everything that's not a montage or done to music, the movie itself, the movie lasts 22.15 seconds.
Oh, God.
22 minutes, 0.15 seconds is what I mean. 22 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah, I was gonna say 20, but still, come on. 20.
The whole movie is 22.15 seconds if you cut out all the music. That's not a movie. Again, that's a clip show. You could literally air this in a half hour on freaking television if you cut all those montages.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which goes back to why people enjoy Rocky 4. Same reason my brother loved Rocky 4. Because it's a feel-good movie and the music makes you feel good.
But in general...
It's distracting you from the fact that you just paid your hard-earned money to see nothing.
Yeah.
It's like The Hangover 2.
No, yeah. No, I agree. And the thing is that, it really,
you're stupid enough to pay for the same freaking thing you've seen over and over again. There's nothing new here.
Yeah, I mean, they really did nothing for the storyline. They really did nothing for the storyline. They did...
You can skip 4.
Yeah.
And not watch it and not miss anything. And here's why. Going into, again, the one I put, that's why I went backwards. Creed 2, bottom. Rocky 4, second to last. Why is Rocky 5 better than Rocky 4? Well, let's start with this. The opening montage of Rocky 5 is the entire fight scene of Rocky and Drago.
Yep.
Pretty much. When it's sped up a bit.
Yep.
So anything that you needed to know about Rocky 4, you find out in the first 3 minutes of Rocky 5. And you get to see all the good highlights of it as well.
Yep.
So you didn't miss anything. So you can completely skip watching Rocky 4, just watch Rocky 5 and still see what was important in 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then they cut to that scene after that in the locker room where he's starting to have his brain damage. Now, what Rocky 5 does wrong, again, Rocky 5 is not the perfect movie. Why do you think it's so down on the list? Mm-hmm. Rocky 5, he wanted his real life son, Sage Stallone, mm-hmm. who sadly passed away while Stallone was filming the escape plan. Mm-hmm. Very young age for him to pass away. But he wanted Sage Stallone to play his son. Mm-hmm. The problem is that Sage Stallone was a lot older than the kid who played his son in 4.
Yep.
And this is supposed to only been like about a week, if even, in between the two movies.
Yeah, from the time.
And his son is so much older than he was now, so it's really messed up.
Because his son in Rocky 4, was about what, 5 or 6. And then when
he's like 7 or 8.
Yeah, right. But
he's like 7 or 8.
Yeah, but then when you go into Rocky 5, he's already a teenager.
Yeah, exactly. Like 12 or 13. It's like he jumped like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and it's there's no consistency. There was no consistency with that. And I get it. I get it why he did it, but still, it made no sense.
So then we meet the character of George Washington Duke, who's a complete parody of Don King, and he's great. He is so good.
Oh yeah,
I love the George Washington Duke character. Everybody hates on him. Why? He's so good.
I agree.
Only in America. That's Don King.
Yeah.
But he's funnier than Don King. He adds so much humor without even trying to. Yep. Like, for example, later on in Christmas scene, when he walks into Balboa's house, and he's just like, "Nice tree." It's just so funny because he has the tiniest freaking Christmas tree. It's like I got a Charlie Brown tree sitting there, and Duke just walks in, "Nice tree." Yep. So you can tell he's being sarcastic.
No, I know.
So yeah, that's so. Good. Duke is good.
Richard Gant, the actor who played him.
Yeah, he was great on Friends too.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, he's just an all around great actor. He's just an all around great actor. I've seen a bunch of things that he's been on. It's just awesome. I mean, he's naturally funny. It's hard to really put into words, but it's just the fact that he has that natural charm for whatever role that he's playing. Like currently right now he's in the show Mr. Iglesias, right? And on Netflix. And he just has this natural charisma, this natural like comedic style to it that it doesn't matter. When he was in Daddy Day Camp, it was the same thing, even though he was playing a hard butt. Trying not to cuss, a hard butt. Again, it was just that natural charisma into the role. So when he's in Rocky 5, it just adds that, I mean, again, like you said, the perfect parody to Don King, but funnier. It's excellent. You got to give it up to the actor.
Absolutely, and yeah. So Rocky 5. He comes back. He thinks that he's on top of the world now after having this fight with Drago, which he made no money for, which they mentioned in 4 it was going to be for no money. Mm-hmm. So you got brain damage in this fight, and he's got no money, so he's got to retire due to brain damage. Mm-hmm. And we learn that, and this is where the movie makes no freaking sense. Mm-hmm. Again, like I said, I can't completely defend the movie. Mm-hmm. It's got its problems.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest problem being, how long were they in Russia?
Mm-hmm. For a fight type thing, whatever. If we're talking at least 3 to 6 months, something like that. Because you got to remember.
Were they in Russia in April?
I believe so. Yeah.
I don't believe so. I don't think they were there in April for a Christmas fight.
Well, okay, do you know anything about boxing training?
Yes, I do, but
most boxers, most boxers, they will spend 6 to 8 months, up to even a year, training for one fight.
I don't know. It just seems out there. You know what I mean? Because he has the fight with Apollo, and then all of a sudden, again, nothing's explained in that movie. He's going to have the fight with Drago, so he goes to there, and he comes in, and there's snow all over, and it's winter time already. As we see when he arrives, it's already Christmas time. That's why they're listening to Christmas music as soon as he arrives. So maybe
Well,
November.
I don't know because you know you got to remember that in most of Russia is covered in snow.
Yes, but they're already playing the Christmas music. I don't know. It
That
just seems like he's coming in November and having the fight on Christmas, and he's there for like a month.
I don't know. Again, they really don't. Sorry about that. That's my dogs. No, what it
Let
is,
the dogs out.
whoa, right? No, it's just sometimes motorcycles are passing by, and no, anyway, but you know, again, like you said, a lot of things aren't really clearly explained or what have you. You know, it's just,
But anyway, the
but yeah,
point of why I bring that up is
yeah.
the story element here is that Paulie dealt with Rocky's accountant and the accountant was saying that Rocky was going to need a taxes extension since he was going to be in Russia and wouldn't be able to file his taxes. And
Oh,
so
okay.
Paulie got him to sign this document without reading it, and the document actually gave the power of attorney
To the
of
accountant.
Rocky's whole estate to the accountant, who then used the money to invest it in some ideas he thought would make big money, and he put it back without Rocky ever noticing.
Mhm.
But all the investments went under, and so Rocky is completely bankrupt and has no money.
Question is why?
Wow.
But here's the thing. Question is why didn't he sue the accountant? Or why you know they could have added that
Well,
into
that's
the.
the thing. They actually say they're going to sue the accountant and all, but then the guy even gives it this crappy explanation that you're going to sue him, but he has nothing to sue him for anyway, and you're not going to get anything. What I don't know. It just seems so far fetched.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I would agree with that because I mean, it,
Even the scene where they explain this is so like crazy. Adrian's just arguing with Paulie, and Rocky's goes, "What's up? What's all the arguing?" She goes, "It's gone. The money is gone." And he's like, "On my eyes, Rock, I never stole a freaking dime." And he's like, "Paulie, you gave him power of attorney." He's like, "He's the thief." None of this scene makes any sense.
uh, no, it doesn't because okay,
And then it gets worse.
with
Again,
that,
I'm gonna
well,
get to. I'm not kidding when I say it's a
no,
good
no,
movie, but
no,
I'm
no,
giving
no,
all the bad first.
no, but okay, if we're gonna think about this logically, okay, why didn't the accountant talk to Adrian? Because she didn't go to Russia till sometime after. The accountant could have talked to
That's another good
Adrian.
point. Yeah, Paulie left before them.
How you know what I'm saying? How in the world?
Why did they need the extension?
Yeah, I mean, how in the world did Paulie all of a sudden become the go-to guy for an accountant? It's like the only way to explain it is that the accountant was so crooked that he knew Adrian would say no, so he went to Paulie, but they didn't even explain that.
And then he's at this meeting with this banker who's telling him that they're broke.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "You get a hold of Duke. Tell him I'll fight Kane anytime, any place."
Mm-hmm.
And the banker
Mm-hmm.
says, "If that's what you want, let me know and I'll set it up." How the heck did the banker set this up?
Exactly. That's the one thing that I thought about.
The guy who's gonna book the fight.
No, exactly. That's one thing. That's one thing that I thought about when years later. Now that I'm an adult and what have you, right? I was like, wait a minute. How in the world can the banker's not a promoter?
But then he goes to the doctor because
Yep.
he needs to get medically cleared,
Mm-hmm.
and the doctor won't medically clear him. And they even say he can't get a license anywhere. No. Can we keep this secret? Oh, it'll be strictly confidential. And all of a sudden it's out there. So I guess the doctor sold the information.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that against the patient freaking confidentiality
Yeah,
contract?
the HIPAA. That's against HIPAA.
Can he sue the doctor now?
Probably.
They got money.
Probably.
The argument
Yeah.
why he couldn't sue the accountant is because he's got no money. The doctor's got money.
I mean, here's the here's the thing with the accountant is that even if probably with the way the accountant did everything, the accountant would have to file for bankruptcy and sell his own house and everything in order to pay off Rocky whatever he could. But you're right, he could have sued the doctor, violating the HIPAA law.
But yeah, so then they sell off all Rocky's estate, his motorcycle, all his stuff, and they have to go back to Philadelphia,
The only other thing I
where
could hold on.
somehow,
Hold on. I'm sorry, Beat. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just thought about this. The only other thing I can think of is that if Rocky personally went to the doctor to get cleared for boxing, which is what it seems, the doctor does have to report to the commission.
no, but they said it would be strictly confidential.
Okay.
When they said nobody needs to know about this, right? And they said it'll be strictly
Okay.
confidential.
Okay. Yeah. So so
And then the tabloids and all the papers know about it.
yeah. So yeah, there must have been a leak somewhere. Either the doctor himself leaked it out, or the doctor told somebody in confidence, and then that person leaked it out or something. Like the tabloids
But
probably.
anyway,
Yeah. Go ahead to where you were saying.
yeah, so they go back to Philadelphia. Now, this is another one. And this is the last one I'm going to argue about that makes no sense. But why do they still own the house that they bought in Rocky 2? And I'm not saying why would they still own it. Like, why would they? I mean, why do they?
Yeah.
If they just sold off all his estate and took everything from him, wouldn't they have taken that house too? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on how much money. It depends on how much money the house, the big house was worth. The mansion that they had, plus the cars.
Well, because
plus...
they even say, though, they say the only property you still own
Oh,
is
the
a
gym.
property that was willed to your son
Yeah, the gym.
in a Mickey Goldmill's will, the gym. The gym belongs to the son,
Yep.
Rocky's kid. He owns the gym.
So I mean,
because it was willed to him by Mickey Goldmill. That's why they can't touch the gym.
Unless he did a pre GoFundMe.
Yeah, they didn't exist yet.
No, but I'm saying, I'm saying like a bunch of people came together and bought the house for him. I don't know.
I don't know, but yeah, so they go back to the house from Philadelphia, and that's what I mean about it being better than 4. Again, we already went over 4. It's just montage after montage after montage with 2 scenes of importance. That's not a movie. It's not a story. This is a well-based story going back to Rocky 2, like I said, about where he is broken down and has nothing and has to retire and all this different stuff. Now we're in a new element. He's not retiring just because he's broken down. He is, but he's also got no money to boot now. So now he has to go back to his roots and re-find himself. And then here comes this distraction, Tommy Gunn, who wants to be trained, played by Tommy Morrison. And Tommy wants to be a boxer. And Rocky starts seeing that maybe I can work with this kid and get some of my glory back. When he hears the idea of manage, he goes, oh man, I'm no manager, but Tommy insists on it, and he starts getting into this and starts feeling like he's a winner again, which he even says later, I felt like I was winning again when the kid was in the ring. He's feeling, especially like when Tommy fights against Kane, Union Kane, and Rocky's downstairs hitting the heavy bag the same way that Tommy's throwing the punches. Rocky's throwing the exact same punches at the same time because they know each other so well. He's like, it's like we're in sync here. And you realize he's seeing this, but at the same time, he's losing sight of everything that's important in his life. He's making Adrian alienated. He's alienating his own son, not paying attention to his son, focusing more on Tommy. His son's getting jealous of it. He gives these cufflinks that supposedly came from Rocky Marciano, which I said earlier, I'd bring that up again. He gives it to Tommy instead of his own son. And then Tommy gets contacted by Duke, and Duke wants to try and pit them against each other just for the fun of it and all the money that he's seeing they can make for teacher against student. Old lion against young lion. All that different stuff. And it's just so good because Tommy, he's young and naive and he just wants to make money. So he's like, hey, I'll take that. I'll take the deal. And he keeps asking Rocky even, when am I getting my title shot? Oh, I got to get one real soon. And Rocky's trying to build up a reputation, but Tommy just wants to get to the top. And then, he goes down that route of signing with Duke. And then he tells Rocky even, hey, if you want to still train me, you can. But I'm with Duke now. And Rocky's like trying to pull him back and say, no, Mickey warned me about these guys. They don't care about you. They're like a vampire. They suck you for all you're worth, and then they throw you to the gutter when you're not worth anything anymore. And Tommy's not listening. And that leads to this amazing thing, which originally, let's face it, Rocky was supposed to die in this movie.
Yep.
It was the ending of the movie. Rocky dies in the street fight and dies in Adrian's arms. End of the movie. Wow, what a crappy ending, by the way, that would have been.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
He changed his mind during filming, and then they changed it where he gets up. But they started showing this on the Christmas scene where he's grabbing at his head when Tommy runs away because the brain damage is really getting to him. And that's like the first sign of it. But then Talia Shire, she has her best. All of her scenes are so good, like I said.
Oh, yeah.
This is the best one of the series, in my opinion. The scene in the street, Tommy just drove off. Adrian comes out to Rocky, and he's like, he's brainwashed. He doesn't understand. And she's like, because he's not you. He doesn't have your heart. And that's when she gets into this whole thing, which, like I said, is my favorite part of anything she's done in the whole series. When she goes, that's what Mickey knew, is that it wasn't about your heart. Yeah, all those fighters you fought, you beat them with heart, not muscle. And she goes, all those beatings you took in the ring, I took them with you. And just all of it is so good and so emotional. And then she even starts saying how if you got something to pass on, I understand Tommy makes you feel good, but if you got something to pass on, pass it on to your son. For God's sakes, your son is lost.
Yeah, it's like
he needs you. And Rocky, you're losing your family. I'm like, oh my God, it's so good. How can people hate this movie when it's got this?
Yeah, because I mean, it brings that moment of, you know, it brings that moment of the, you know, Rocky, get your crap together. You know, look what's happening.
Yeah, you start seeing that this is a story element that, not, like I said, 4 doesn't have a story.
No.
5 has this element that, again, guy who was on top, now he's broken. He's going back to his roots because he has no money now. He starts trying to find himself, but then he gets completely distracted by the idea of getting glory back.
Oh, don't forget. He
loses sight of everything going on in his life that's important.
Don't forget.
And now he has to get on the road back to that.
Yeah, no, but don't forget also within the story arc that, you know, with Adrian starting to work again at the pet shop, and, you know, and Rocky's like, you know, I got to go back to this. You don't, like, you know, it brings everything, you know, it brings everything together. It does, you know, it like every bit and piece of the movie, you know, from Robbie to Adrian to everything just comes together at that final moment where, you know,
and the whole idea even just of Rocky training somebody and giving mentoring to somebody, and then this other guy trying to come in between that just so he can make money off it. And it's just, and then he listens to Duke, and Duke puts him with his girlfriend, and it leads to one of my favorite jokes when they're at the press conference, and they're like, after he wins the title, because he wins the title, he beats Union Kane, and all of a sudden nobody cares about him. They're calling him Rocky's puppet, and they're saying he's Rocky's boy, and then he's the
they didn't want to.
Like, I have to thank the man.
They didn't want to
enjoy my corner. He's like, I have to thank Mr. George Washington Duke, and they're like, I can't believe he thanked Duke and not Rocky.
Yeah, they didn't. Okay, they didn't at some point with one. I think it was like there was like one of the only montages in it. Where they were showing that he was looking at a newspaper, and they had Rocky with a hand puppet of Tommy.
Yeah, exactly. And they also had one with the strings attached to it.
Yeah, that was, you know.
And they were calling him Rocky's gun instead of Tommy Gun. They were calling him Rocky's gun.
Yep.
And he was getting so mad about it because he's living, like he even said, I'm living in your shadow. And no, but he wins, and then the promoters, they're doing exactly, the press conference people all the news reporters, they're doing exactly what Rocky warned them. They're like, he's like, man, I won the title. I proved I'm the best. The best? This guy was a bum, you beat. And they're like, he was a paper champion. What do you mean a paper champion? Like, it means his title was manufactured. He didn't win it from the champion. He just had it handed to him. And he goes, but this shows I'm the best. They're like, well, when you gonna fight an actual contender? And he goes, man, I just won the title. And then they're like, hey, for your next fight, why don't you fight the redhead in the third row? I hear she comes real cheap. And it's like, that's the girl that Duke set him up with.
Yep.
So it's just so good. And then he walks out and he's arguing. And Duke's just like, you need to challenge this man. Get him to fight. Get him in that ring, Tommy. I don't care if you got to insult him. Do whatever you got to do. And then he goes to this bar and he's arguing with Rocky, and Rocky's like, I ain't throwing hands with you. And then he knocks out Paulie, and he's like, you knocked him down. How about you knock me down? And then he's like, Duke's like, in the ring. And Rocky's just like, my ring's outside. Tommy just wants his respect, as he puts it. Even I want my respect. Come and get it. But so they're gonna have a street fight. Duke's so ticked off because Duke's only reason for setting this up was to make money, and he ain't gonna make no money.
Exactly.
This is going live on regular TV for free in the streets. And the elements of this street fight is so well done, and it was choreographed. Like I said earlier, Stallone was friends with Terry Funk. Terry Funk actually helped choreograph this entire street fight with Sylvester Stallone, and that's why it feels so realistic. And it's just so well done, and it's good. And originally, like I said, Stallone was supposed to die, and instead we get that great moment of I ain't hear no bell, and get up because Mickey loves you, all that stuff.
Yep.
It never would have came if they went with the original ending. But yeah, so then he knocks out Tommy, and then Duke's yelling at him, touch me and I'll sue, and he decks him, and he goes, sue me for what?
Yeah.
But it's just such a good movie and a good heartfelt story. And then he takes his son to the museum and where the statue is and all. And they end with clips from each movie during the credits. And I'm thinking stuff, how can people not like this movie?
I agree.
And one person argued with me, oh, well, the music in 4 is so much better than 5. That's your reason?
that makes absolutely no daggone sense, man. That doesn't. That like you said earlier, all 4 was just a feel good story, a feel good movie. That's it.
Not even a feel good story. Yeah, a feel good movie because of the music.
Yeah, exactly. A feel good movie because of the music. That's it. That's all it was. With 5, it had like a little bit of everything, and when it came to the climax, it was just like bam, like It gives you that reason to keep cheering on for Rocky. It's just
it had development. It had character development. It had storytelling. Then there was the whole story of his son going to school and getting picked on because he's the son of a famous boxer, and then he has to fight. So he goes through his own training, but his dad won't even help him. So he's just training anyway at the gym. And then he gets into a fight and he wins, and then he becomes good friends with them. And then he gets a girlfriend. Well, and then his dad finally opens up to it. There's so much to it.
No, and it's
there's
crazy.
There's nothing going on in
It's
5.
crazy. After he wins the fight.
4, I mean. There's nothing going on in 4.
In 5, just to add this, after he wins the fight and Rocky just said, oh, hey, yeah, that's great. Good for you. Awesome. Tell your mother.
He's like, hey, Dad, I got my coat back. Yeah. Oh, that's great, kid. Go tell your mom. She loves stories like that. Yeah, she'll love to hear that his son was in a fight.
Yeah, so but that showed, but then that again that increases the divide between Rocky and Robbie, because it's like that's where he sees he really doesn't give a crap about me, and then that's when he starts becoming friends with the bullies, and then that's when he starts going down that wrong path, and again, but like you said, it just the everything just comes together.
It's story development.
Yeah.
And also, the note that the 5th movie was the only one that was also made by the guy who made the first movie.
Wow. Okay.
It's the only one. He left for 2 and 3 and 4. He came back for 5 and got crapped on. Everybody crapped on his movie, including Stallone. Like I said, Stallone originally defended the movie, and then he just started saying, yeah, it's the worst one. But that's because all the fans were saying it. I just don't... I love the 5th one. 5th one's actually, like I said, it's down on my favorites list. It's pretty high up. It's not like in the top 3, but it's one of my favorites. As far as best of, like I said, it's bottom 3, only because I can't ignore all the flaws.
No, I hear you. But like on a personal level, it is a great movie. It is a great movie.
But I really feel like it would have been a perfect ending. They didn't need 6.
No, yeah, I do agree with that too. I do agree with that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I did like 6 and what have you, but 5 was the perfect ending. He could have just stopped there and not do any more. And
I feel like 3 could have evolved right into 5 without 4, and you could have cut 4 and Creed 2 from the franchise.
Yeah.
And just had one, two, three, 5, and then Balboa, and then Creed, and that would have been fine. You didn't need 4, and you didn't need Creed 2. They're the 2 that they don't even matter. You know what I mean? Like I said, taking out 4, other than Apollo being dead, which isn't even an important factor for any of the rest of the series except for in Creed, you know, it's not important anymore. But Mickey's death, that's important. That does go further into. The guys over at Channel Awesome, they actually did a whole thing about what if Apollo didn't die, he just got paralyzed and ended up in a wheelchair. And I really recommend people go and listen to that, because it's really good.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to this week. I'm gonna have to later. Well, tomorrow. I'm gonna have to. Tomorrow.
Yeah, they drew some artwork too. They actually drew like images of Apollo in this wheelchair and everything. And Apollo learns in that Adonis exists, and he tells Rocky about it. And then he's actually in Rocky's corner in Russia for the fight with Drago. And I was like, man, if they had all this stuff in there that these guys put in there, it would have been a much better movie. And I actually wouldn't be crapping on 4 because they had this whole thing where Apollo like tells Rocky and all, don't go after this fight, man. I made the mistake of going after this guy without doing my research, and look what happened to me and everything. And I would give anything just to be able to walk again. It's just so good.
Well, I mean, in the style of Rocky, when Apollo said that, he would have said the same thing that he told Adrian. I gotta do what I gotta do.
Yeah, but it would have made more sense with him to have the conversation with Apollo as opposed to Adrian.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought it was really good. I was like, wow, these guys really. I don't always agree with their rewriting stuff.
Yeah.
They do this thing. It's called fan fiction, I think it's called. I forgot what to call it. But they do this thing once in a while, like they did a Ghostbusters one. They do all kinds of what ifs. But that was their best one, in my opinion. And I totally agreed with it. I was like, wow, this is a much better movie.
Yeah. No, I agree. I gotta agree with you, bro. I gotta agree. Oh man, it's getting late. So
did anybody ask any questions? Is
anybody
even still watching?
We still got a couple. But I'm sure because it's getting late, so they'll probably go back to it. But going back to what we were saying earlier, if anybody has any questions, the email address, it is in the description box below, along with the links to our other channels. Also, if you have Discord and you want to join the Discord server, the invite is in the description box. Join the Discord, and we can have really cool conversations about topics you want us to cover, and go from there. That's just
right. As we said, next week we will be discussing the lineage of pro wrestling championships and what they mean and what they don't mean, and how they help people and how they don't help people, and some of the reigns that were very good, some of the reigns that were really not good, and we will discuss that next week. Hopefully we won't run as long as we did with this. This ran a lot longer than I expected. But yeah, so if there was no questions, then that's where we're going to end this. And again, if you have any questions about next week's topic, you can write them in early and we will get them in there. And other than that, any final thoughts from you, bro?
No. I think we covered it all. And, until next week, right?
All right. Well, thanks for listening. I'm Big Time Jimmy Larson, ECT Bishop. And we'll see you next week, you'll hear us next week on What's Going Down.